was a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Maris, Harry Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Chris Hillman, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As The Earth, Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Missouri Bear, Hendrick86, Liam Nedrick, Erwin Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Nai Bai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Felix Hung, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Alexander Main, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. I'm going to raise the mic on whoever is in the Discord server so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
So Flatzoid, I 8 minutes into this Why Gravity is Not a Force video, and I'm laughing so hard.
Yep, that's why I shaded. It's quite brilliant.
Oh, that is good. Have you seen it, Nathan?
Why Gravity is Not a Force? If you're referring to the Veritasium one, no, I haven't.
Yeah, it's worth a look.
It's just an illusion.
Yeah, it's only 17 minutes, 33 seconds long, but it's funny. It's like, wait a minute, we say that. How come you're saying it this way?
Yeah, but they're saying when we say it, again, let's not get confused with us summarising their position with us taking their position, right? Well, summarising their position as it currently stands is all Veritasium will have done, and gravity is not a force. It's pseudo-Riemannian force-based bending of conceptual mediums known as space-time. So when they talk about geodesics in space-time, that's what they're talking about. But that's just the current rhetoric, which we've known for a long time. They just don't adhere to it on the globe side because they need a force to keep the gas here when it doesn't really do that anyway. But that's what they assert.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, well, you must read the comments. Even the Globers are trying to rip him apart there.
Oh, there's Globers and they're saying, no, it's a force.
Yeah, I mean, when you hear them say it, space-time is doing all this, you just crack up because it's a concept. I mean, time doesn't do anything.
No, but as I say, within the construct of their model itself, they'll be able to explain it, and I'm sure it's very accurate within the reification that is a globe model with the sky vacuum and space-time being bent. I'm sure they're very accurate. Veritasium tend to do a pretty good job, but all they're detailing is a fantasy world, conceptual mediums. So, well, I'm sure their description is accurate and with the times. Einsteinian gravity is a reification fallacy. There's no such thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think they, after watching it from the vantage point that we have when we debate it all day long with these guys, that's what it is. It's a fantasy. It's imaginary. It's an illusion. So obvious.
Yeah, now general relativity debunks Coriolis as well.
Tumbleweed, as you don't explain it afterwards. If you're going to throw these things out there, you've got to detail it if it's yours.
I tried to explain it to Arwen yesterday, but yeah, I wasn't really impressed. You know Arwen.
Well, he's not here. He's not here to talk through. You go.
Let me explain it this way. According to the general relativity, you are in the non-inertial reference frame because you are moving with the Earth all the time. Because if you are falling, then you're stationary, then you're in the inertial reference frame. Now the globers, they claim that hurricanes and everything is not part of the move, but everything's moving with the Earth. So that means the hurricane is an actual force, it's not an apparent force, thanks to the general relativity. And if a guy is skydiving, he would be having apparent deflection, and skydivers don't have apparent deflections. So with general relativity, just because the reference frames alone, they're already debunking that hurricanes can be caused by Coriolis, because then it's actual, and a skydiver would have to deviate and he doesn't. It's just like a short summary. I'll make a much better one at some time.
Alrighty then.
It's dead quiet.
Nobody's probably. I left a gap for someone at least to maybe comment on it from Discord, but nobody did. Although Skeptical's just joined, so hello Skeptical, can you hear us?
Hello guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello. How are you?
Good, good.
Good, bro.
Yeah, not dizzy, not spinning.
Yeah, we're not spinning, mate.
So when they realized general relativity is Einstein's imagination world and now real, welcome to Flat Earth.
Yeah, he's very subtly trying to point to a flat Earth with it, if you look at it.
Maybe.
But you'll have to watch the whole video to see that.
So, Flatsoid, are they saying, I haven't seen the whole video, but are they saying, based on other times we've discussed this topic, and I'm only saying my understanding of their viewpoint, not what we hold up as anything to be valid or all that, is that the Earth is coming up at your feet at 9.8 meters?
Exactly, yes.
So if the Earth is coming up at your feet at 9.8 meters per second, and if we're still a globe-shaped world like they say we are, is there a down to this? And if there is a down, then if it's going up, what's happening to people in the down part?
He did explain it with the equation, though. Not that it really clarifies it. Yeah, you'll see. Not that it really clarifies it. It's just a way of saying you're bending space-time, so you're actually moving straight, but you're seeming to deviate. So it's a way of saying it's actually flat, but because it's curved, now it's a globe. You understand? That's what I say. It's very subtly trying to say it's actually flat.
Maybe.
It's kind of hard when you imagine their globe model with the southern hemisphere and the country down below near the South Pole, and then you could look up at the northern hemisphere in their model, and they got a country up there. Which direction is it up again?
You see, that's what I'm saying. That's why if you think about it, really, because now you all been going in opposite directions according to up. So, I mean, it's impossible for one object to be moving in all directions at the same time.
Well, it's nonsense.
Yeah. The way he's explaining it is, think of it as you're going in a straight curve, like a straight path, that's seeming to curve. So in other words, you're saying you're actually going in all the same direction on a flat plane, you could say. But because you're bending space-time, it's seeming to curve. So that's what's making the globe. So it's like taking a flat model and wrapping it around a ball.
So it's seeming to look like a globe, but it's not a globe.
Sort of like what he's saying, yeah.
That's nonsense. The whole thing is nonsense. Time doesn't do anything.
Yeah, because his analogy is, if you're in a spaceship or space rocket and you're just traveling in a straight line, there's a a planet
Where?
ahead.
Hang on.
I'm just
hang on.
saying,
I know you are, but I'm going to have fun with you. A rocket is where and traveling straight where?
in Narnia.
Oh, okay. As long as you say it's an imagination, that's fine. Go on.
I'm just trying to explain his viewpoint.
I know, but you could say in his imaginary world, they think.
Okay, in his Narnia world,
Oh, better.
he's saying if you're in a rocket ship and you're traveling actual straight path, if you are inside the rocket, you're not going to actually realize that you are arcing towards the planet before it's too late. So you are traveling in a straight line, but you're seeming to deviate in a circular path, and that's bending of space-time apparently.
Really? So when I hit a golf ball and it has a fade or slice to it because of the way the club face met the ball, causing spin left to right, I caused that, not space-time.
The ball would be going straight, actually. It would be you turning underneath it.
Oh, really?
Hello.
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 Yeah, guys. I really do have some vagueness from concerning the Coriolis effect. Can someone sort of put it in simple terms? Because
What's your vagueness?
Like,
Describe your
they don't
vagueness
understand it.
first.
Can
Your
you just
problem to
explain,
understand it.
what Coriolis effect is? Yeah, thank you.
What do you think of this first?
Well, I know it's first of all, you must have two, reference frame, 2 points, frame of reference, right? One is the Earth and one is the atmosphere, right? Is that the thing?
Well, you're not describing what it is. What do you think it is first before you
That's the
start
point. I
breaking
don't
down
know.
what causes it?
That's the point. I want you to sort of, explain it.
I will. I'm just asking you, what do you think it is prior to describing the cause for it? What is Earth-based Coriolis to you?
I don't know. I
You don't
know
know?
the entire argument, honestly. Yeah.
Hang on. Are you a flat earther or a baller?
Yeah, I'm a flat earther. Yeah. I used
Okay,
to
so
be a sort of a globe skeptic, but yeah.
so you don't know what Earth-based Coriolis claim is.
Yeah. That's why I don't grasp. I haven't really grasped the entire argument yet. So
Okay.
that's why I still have. It's to me, it's really vague, and that's why I wanna, get clarity. Yeah.
Flatcher, you want to do it or you want me to do it?
Yeah,
Flatcher. Hang on, I'll see if he wants to
He's
do
on
it.
mute. Just go ahead, 10th.
Yeah, all right. So if you're a baller, you believe you live on a spinning Earth. Okay, you following me?
Yeah.
Okay, so if the Earth is spinning, and you're attached to it, that's one reference frame. It's called the non-inertial reference frame. When you leave the Earth, say in the drone, or if a ball is kicked off the face of the Earth, or an aeroplane, now you're in a different reference frame called the inertial reference frame. Now, if the Earth is spinning underneath you, then it's going to look like it's taking a curved path because you're spinning with the Earth, even though the ball went up straight or the plane is flying straight. Now, this never happens because the Earth is not spinning. But there is such a truth to Coriolis, because if you go on the roundabout that is spinning and you throw a ball straight up, or if you put a drone and it hovers straight above you in the inertial reference frame, you keep spinning underneath it and it looks like it's taking a curved path, but it's really straight up and stationary. So if the Earth was spinning, we would have that situation where flights from the East Coast going to the West Coast against the spin of the Earth would take a much shorter time because the Earth is spinning towards it. but that never happens. So there is no such thing as Earth-based Coriolis whatsoever. But a Coriolis as an effect is real, like with the roundabout.
Right. Right.
Because it's actually spinning.
The crucial detail is that to have the effect, you've got to be turning underneath stuff that's not attached. So it's you turning underneath that causes the effect. Simple as that.
Right. Right.
I don't know if you saw a video I did with a fan. It's actually quite visual. You'll be able to see the two reference frames and you'll understand.
Can you link me, like? Can I get the link, please?
Can I ask what your channel name is?
Flatsoid FE.
No, this guy talking. What do you go by? The guy asking the questions. What do you go by?
What's your
me.
handle? What's your handle?
Hello.
Yeah, what's your handle on YouTube? What's your channel name?
No, I don't have a YouTube channel. I don't have it.
No, what's your name? How do I call you? How do I address you?
Oh, skeptical, like skeptical.
Oh, skeptical. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So, hey, repeat that Coriolis and see if you understand that. I just want to see if you got it. What do you think we said?
Because I do honestly. Okay, you say you have two points, two basically reference frame. One is not called non-inertial, i.e. the Earth, and the sort of the inertial reference frame, which is sort of when you
I see he dropped.
Yeah, I say he's got it all right.
Yeah.
No, he has to say it before he gets it.
Well, you've got it right in terms of the inertial and non-inertial reference frames, which is the most critical detail. But understanding that the non-inertial turns underneath as opposed to the inertial, which is the one that the object you're looking at is travelling through, or stationary in, well, those are quite complex details you don't really need to know. You just need to know that you need to turn underneath something to see it happen. So you're on a roundabout turning underneath the stuff that's not on the roundabout, and anything that's not on the roundabout has that effect because you're turning underneath it. Well, that's really simple to understand. When you get into sort of non-inertial and inertial reference frames, I don't think it's necessary that your average Joe needs to understand what they are, what the difference is. Just your claim to turn underneath stuff on an Earth that spins. Simple as that. If we were turning underneath
That's what
stuff,
you're
it would shorten
relying
flight
on, though,
times.
isn't it, Nathan?
Go on, vacuum.
I said that's what you're relying on. People having a simple understanding of it.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want people to get into the non-inertial and inertial. It's not necessary. It's just the effect
Get
is
into the
caused.
truth of it. You don't want people getting into that, do you?
Don't want to get into the complex details of it when it's just you turning underneath stuff. It's very simple. Coriolis itself is very simple.
It's a bit dishonest, though, isn't it, Nathan?
Why do you think I asked him the question afterwards?
What
Was
the
that
hell's
dishonest
going
when I
on?
wanted
Why am I
in?
being acclaimed to be dishonest? What's going
Yes,
on?
you are.
Making it simple, stupid.
Just talking about Coriolis, a real effect, which is you turning underneath stuff, seeing it, stuff that's not attached. Do something
That's
it
not
isn't.
what happens, is it, Nathan?
Pardon?
You tell us
That's
what
not
happens then.
No,
is it?
no, he's trolling. Just get him out. He's just here to cause a ruckus. It's not worth it, Nathan.
It's here to call me
Nothing he
dishonest.
suggests was happening.
Now we could summarise Coriolis. Very few of the people on the globe side can summarise the effect at all.
Well, first of all, Skeptical came in with the two reference frames. So he knew there was two. He just wanted to know what the two meant. So he had already an understanding that there was two reference frames at question. And your summary, you turning underneath causes the effect, is short and simple. So I don't understand why a desperate baller who's lost
an
his geometric horizons
oversimplification,
up
isn't
to
it?
all these tricks. Huh? Are you going to
Oversimplification,
talk while I
he
was
It's an
talking?
oversimplification.
Yeah, we heard. Thank you. Yes, it is an oversimplification, as specifically noted by me before oversimplifying it.
But dishonestly oversimplifying it.
Yes, that's correct. I'll say it again. I intentionally did that and declared that that's what I was doing before doing it. Making it more simple, easier to understand.
Yes, but you don't get the full understanding if you summarize it like that of what is actually happening.
Tell us. Tell us.
The roundabout analogy is just completely wrong.
Don't tell me what's wrong, explain it.
Friction.
Is that your one-word explanation?
That's a simple
That's all that's
explanation.
needed, friction.
Sorry, do you want to give a bit more body to your explanation? Because that's not enough for me to understand what you're trying to detail. It's just one word. I think that's an oversimplification. I think just using one word, friction.
Your inertial and non-inertial reference frames are actually linked by friction, aren't they, Nathan?
You're supposed to be telling me. You tell me, and then I'll rip apart your nonsense.
I've just
Go
told
ahead.
you. Do you not understand what I've summarized?
Don't ask me what I understand. Just tell us what you understand, and then we'll correct you.
Don't ask me. Don't tell me to do anything, Nathan.
And then get
you
out.
either understand it or you don't. You're not smart.
Get out. I do tell you what to do, or you fuck off. That's your choice. So you don't want to be telling me what it is? It's nothing to do with friction. Absolutely zero. Okay? Nothing to do with friction. Everything to do with you spinning underneath. Who's rumpusing me from G+? Conclusion time. Thank you, G+. No, nothing to do with friction. Everything to do with you rotating stuff underneath stuff that isn't attached. That's what Coriolis Effect is. Nothing to do with friction. His one-word oversimplification was wrong. So, troll, moron. Doesn't understand Coriolis, as I correctly identified. To assert that it's friction, well, it's a not actual deviation. Nothing's friction in that effect. Because it's a not actual effect. So there's nothing rubbing on anything else. That would cause an actual effect. Well, it's a not actual deviation because you rotate underneath stuff. According to him, that's an oversimplification. He doesn't understand the effect, or he wouldn't call it friction. Absolutely zero to do with this effect. He's a moron.
So he's saying my coffee table and my fan are linked.
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Say again, Flatsoid.
I was saying, so he's saying my coffee table and my fan is linked with friction.
He didn't give any further explanation beyond friction. One word. After accusing me of oversimplifying something, he gives one word that isn't accurate to describe Coriolis deflection. That would be you rotating under something not attached. Nothing to do with friction.
Yeah, that was pretty obvious.
Do they know that gas is non-bonding?
It matters not. It's not gas that you're observing in their effect that they detail in this instance incorrectly. He does not know what Coriolis effect is, but he's more than happy to call me dishonest and say I'm oversimplifying it and then claim it's friction, which it isn't. One word, not a concise, simplified version of the effect. That would be me describing you turning underneath something, seeing it seem to do something it isn't. That's a very simple way of describing Coriolis. You turning underneath something. It's not attached. Well, that still gives you an idea of what's actually occurring. Friction's one word. But these pricks come here and call me dishonest, and then we'll use a one-word answer that doesn't actually describe the effect at all. It's wrong.
Yeah, you used 4 words. He used 1, and he claimed you were oversimplifying.
Yeah, but he doesn't know the effect, moreover. More importantly, he doesn't actually understand what Coriolis effect is. Literally. You wouldn't say it's anything to do with friction if you understood what the effect was. He doesn't. That's the bottom line. None of them do.
Duh.
Very
Well,
few
they're
of
not
them.
actual.
Go on.
They're not actual deviation, obviously. And where was he when I was talking to Skeptical, where I went through it? I mean, when you came in on the end of that, simplifying what I said very nicely. He missed the whole thing.
He doesn't know what Coriolis effect is. That's obvious. None of them do, and they claim we don't.
Well, they have to, because they have to defend an imagination, something that's not real, globe spinning, space-time, causing everything killed gravity, but time doesn't cause anything. It's a concept. I'll do a short video, put an egg timer. I'll put the egg out, and I'll show you how that egg timer won't cook that egg. Well, all right, maybe we should try steak. The egg chased everybody away.
Say again?
Must have been rotten.
Deviled eggs. Oh, gosh. Too much fun, man. I mean, they've got nothing, Nathan. Flat Earth has flipped their pseudo world upside down on them. They're sounding so silly these days.
So I heard Kent Hovine's got Ken Hovine, is that how you say his name?
Hovind.
He's got he was on a server and a few flat earthers were on there, and they even sent him some super chats, and he just would not touch the argument, just totally ignored it.
Smart guy. It's like people who are under the spell of this thing called spinning Earth and outer space being real, all this stuff, right? And then they hear that there's a flat earther. They think like a flat earther? Who in this age would believe in a flat earth? And then they come and listen in, and they're going to throw a few jabs, and out comes the top 3 questions. They walk away looking stupid.
Yeah, but don't you want truth? He seems like a guy that
Why
wants truth.
Why are you concerned about what he wants?
I don't.
Well, you said, doesn't he want truth? I mean, you're speaking like, well, who knows? Does he? Doesn't he? I mean, obviously, if he's not responding to the super chat, he doesn't want to go there. So I guess not.
I was going to say, so what? You know, if Kent Hovind doesn't want to go there, it's like,
why don't push a rope.
Yeah,
I just think it's a bit strange. That's all. It's a bit freaking strange. That's all I'm saying.
I love it when you get mad. I do, Neil. Yeah, it is strange. That's for sure.
Why? 90% of the Western world think
because the
we're on a
Bible,
sphere.
right from the beginning, talks about the nature of Earth. He's supposed to be this Bible scholar, but he refuses to look at it.
Well, he's not a Bible scholar, number one. And number two, Scientism has got a hold of him on this topic. So in order to have some credibility in the pseudo world of Scientism, he toes this line with them. That's all.
Theology, that's all it is.
Yeah, don't worry about him and how he interprets Genesis. It's pretty clear what Genesis says. They don't want to do it, they're going to answer to God. You don't have to worry about it.
I mean, my whole life, I also thought, I mean, being a Christian, I also thought it was a globe, because that's what I was taught, even though I read the Bible. Once you come to the realization, then you see it in a whole different light.
Well, they kind of conveniently just read the story and they don't get into exegeting the scripture word by word. And then when you do, you say, wait a minute, this doesn't match what they say we are. And if God inspired this holy writing, am I going to believe God or am I going to believe man? This is where every person has to answer that question for themselves, by the way.
Got my replacement panel today.
Very true.
One of the panels that I just bought had got a crack in the veneer. Only a small crack. Wrote an email to the manufacturer and I was like, it's got an annoying small crack. And I explained that I'd kind of massaged it back in so it was even more subtle. And then yesterday I got an email saying a replacement's on the way. No ifs, buts, or maybes. They just sent out a replacement. They're like, can you get the other one ready to go? I'm like, yeah. So I took it off the wall last night, took off all the hardware, and then this morning the new one came and I just put the replacement back on the wall again. I was like, oh, that's good service.
Very nice.
So what?
Good,
So was
good
that
company.
Was that an Axial crack?
Again, yeah. Well, it was just the veneer. So the veneer was cracked. So I think in shipping somebody just dropped the box on its front and enough of an impact had cracked the veneer. But
So it wasn't an illusion. It was actual.
No, it was actually. It had actually had an actual force applied to it.
Where are you going with this, Flatzoid? Trying to help the ballers?
I thought he was bending it.
Well, they're kind of down. They may need a little help from you. Just to give them a little time.
I put out a video for my Patreons. So if you're one of my Patreons, go and check it out. I've put a video up just scanning the room and saying what I've bought. I could keep going, because I keep measuring the frequency response of the room and trying to get it as flat as possible, like you would in a studio. I've got to accept though that as much as I want it to be a studio, it isn't. I'm not actually doing critical listening in here, so I'm not mixing any music. The reason for me wanting it treated is so that A, I sound good, and B, I can hear you clearly. Yeah,
you got to remember, first and foremost is your kids' playroom and TV room. That's what it first and foremost is. Second, it's your studio.
Yes. Well, yeah. Been various things that I've bought that would have been much bigger or deeper, but with them sticking out, it means the sharp edges they can run into and stuff. So some of them have become. The one behind me originally was like 3 times as deep, but it was pretty clear that if you run past it at a speed and you're not looking where you're going, as kids do, you're going to take half your face off with a sharp cornered edge. You know what I mean?
Oh boy. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much done. I mean, there's other bits and bobs I could buy, but yeah, I've got to draw a line at some point. I think there's one other item I will actually get, maybe 2 or 3.
So what? Let me ask you. What in the future? Do you see yourself moving to a different place in your area, or maybe out of your area to another area? Are you thinking of a bigger home with a separate studio, possibly? What's been on your mind, or is that at all a possibility?
Yeah, it's a possibility if we moved somewhere horrible. Well, not horrible, just not as nice as the location that we live now. So to get what we wanted in that respect, we'd have to be a lot richer than we are. So as much as, like most people, you look at houses that you might want to move into one day, we can't afford to do it. So sort of.
Would you ever move to the country and get a bigger...
Smash that super chat.
Yeah, smash the super chat. Yeah, I mean, we've looked at that as well because it was obviously cheaper if you move out to the sticks. But then again, just this morning I took my kid for a tennis lesson. Later on this afternoon she'll go to gymnastics. Those are all things that are attainable when you live in a nice middle class town.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to travel an hour everywhere.
Again?
You don't want to travel an hour to one thing everywhere you go.
Exactly. It's not like it's not doable, but by the same token, I'd prefer to.
I mean, at a stage, I was working like 60 k's away from work. It's like an hour's drive just to work every time without traffic. It was really a slip.
Yeah, I've done it as well. At one point, the factory, or whatever you want to call it, the main hub for the company I work for was 150 miles away. Now, I was a rep, so I was covering the whole country, so being central was very useful for my particular role at that company. But by the same token, I still had to go to work. So I still had to do a 6-hour trip, round trip. 3 hours there, 3 hours back, unless I was heavily breaking the speed limit, which I frequently did. Just a huge trek.
No, I know what your problem was. You were fighting Coriolis.
No, I wasn't. Don't fight Coriolis. It's a not actual effect. There's nothing to fight.
Fletcher, you just can't help bringing those jabs in, can you?
Yeah, but it's the damn friction.
It's the damn friction.
Yeah, there's nothing to fight. There wouldn't be any friction.
Sorry, I just had to.
I know you did. I mean, you get a bunch of flat earthers together, you're going to throw some jabs out there when someone just says a word.
Isn't it an outrage? The guy comes in, accuses me of dishonesty and oversimplification, only to get the description wrong, use a word that absolutely unequivocally does not apply to this effect, but state it with one word only. after accusing me of oversimplifying things and calling me dishonest.
Yeah, well, he's been on the show before, and has the same, how can I put it, routine. He insults you from the beginning. He accuses you of lying or whatever, and then when asked to give evidence for it, it turns into a big argument. And so I've actually enjoyed his absence. He's just a troll. He's not serious. I mean, all he had to do was come on and say, okay, can you please explain what you mean? It seemed like you oversimplified it. What are the nitty-gritty details of what you're trying to say? I mean, that would be okay.
That would be a concession that he doesn't understand. Which, like I say,
Ah,
I'm going to go out on a limb and say 90% of them, 9 out of 10 of them, don't understand what Coriolis Effect is.
see, that's why I like your insight, because you caught it. It's because he doesn't understand. He has to put those words together that way.
Just projection. He doesn't understand Coriolis Effect, so he's going to blame me and say it's because I'm either being dishonest, not explaining it correctly. It's like, no, you just don't understand it. That's not my issue. I don't care whether or not you understand it, but if you're going to come and accuse me of being dishonest, you better damn well understand it.
Yeah. Well, like I say, he's a troll. He likes to argue without any points, and it always ends bad.
Or have something to back it. Back your claim. If you're being dishonest, show me how Nathan's being dishonest. Don't just throw a word friction at me and ask me to break it down.
Well, my whole
when
point. Go on, Fletcher.
This is when I pop up and say semantics,
What words and
Well,
their meaning.
as if they understand what it means.
Semantics is what we deal in debate. What does this word actually mean? How does it apply to the argument we're having? That's semantics.
Yeah, it's not a bad word to use, actually, in this forum or any forum when you're discussing something and there's a toss-up between what the person is trying to say and what you think he said. You need to get into the words and the context.
It is context, exactly. It is extremely rare for someone to call foul with semantics and for them to be right. And there was, I can't think of an example, apart from about a week ago, where Quantum Eraser actually used it as a legitimate argument with the correct vernacular in the form of semantics. So he called semantics on an argument that was like, you're debating about words and their meanings when it's not relevant, which is how an argument of, oh, that's just semantics, is applicable as a defense or a rebuttal. And like I say, it's very, very rare, but QE did it. I even gave him props. I was like, wow, you've used it in the correct context. And he was like, dust off his shoulders. Yeah, I know.
Well, it's a trick of theirs, right? They want to tie you up there because they're stuck in the argument that they're in.
That QE's a smart stag, boy.
The master stag.
Morning, Tiff, man.
Hey, Red Man, how you doing?
I'm doing good, You
Wonderful. Good to hear you again.
see the moon last night?
No, I went to bed early.
I did. Well, only because I was up at 4 and 5 and 6 in the morning, as is typically the case in this household. But yes, it was like a very slim crescent on its back. It looked astonishing, because it was quite big despite being a slim crescent. It was beautiful.
So it was a smile.
It looked like a smile, yeah. As soon as I saw it, it reminded me of a saying my grandmother on my father's side used to say, which was, moon on its back, rain in its lap. That's what she used to say.
Yeah, I got a picture of it moon on its back with Venus in the sky. Venus was up under, so I sent Tiff man the pictures.
It was a beautiful night last night. I went out several times. Nice that I can bring this up because it's something I do frequently. It's just very rarely gets discussed. But it was spectacularly clear last night, and it just looked astonishing. It's truly awe-inspiring. As much as we sort of use it as a debating point that might get brushed over, and then debunking someone's assumption of antipodal star movement or something, but they are awe-inspiring. Truly, truly awe-inspiring.
Hey, Redman, they're just coming over. You want me to post it?
Yeah, you can share it in Master B, Nathan, so you can take a look at it. It's pretty cool.
All right. Did you just send me 3?
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it.
Yes,
Is
sir.
it
Yes,
just 3
sir.
pictures? Okay, I'll go ahead and post it.
So these are pictures of the moon last night with Venus.
This morning, when I woke up at 5 o'clock, I'm in United States.
How many hours ago?
About maybe about 2 hours ago.
Oh, okay. But yeah, you'd have got a very, very similar view to what I got, because it would have been, obviously, relatively speaking, a similar sort of time to what I was observing it right first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm glad you got pictures of that, because I stared at that in wonder and going, wow.
You think that's awesome? I got other pictures where I took it at 9 o'clock in the evening and 5 o'clock in the morning, and you can see the rotation of the moon.
Come again? What?
The moon itself was cartwheeling in the sky. So
Oh,
I was
know
looking in one
yes.
direction.
I see what you mean.
Picture?
Yeah, like a wagon wheel. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, I know what you mean now.
Yeah.
Okay, they're up, Nathan.
Up in Master B? Oh, yes.
Yes, Master B.
Yeah, got him. Oops, where's Skype gone? It vanished. There we go. I've got a big brick wall and then a very tiny dot, which is presumably the moon.
Well, you should have 3 pictures. But the
Yeah.
little dot down at the bottom, no, that should be Venus. Hold on. Yeah, you can see Venus at the bottom. If you zoom in a little bit, the moon is over top of it,
Yeah,
about 85 degrees.
Yeah, I've got center pictures of the moon, and you can almost make out at this resolution the fact that it's a smiley face, and then you've got Venus below it. Excellent, epic, really nice to the trees too.
Yeah,
good picture.
Appreciate it.
Presumably not taken with anything too flash either.
No, this is with my cell phone.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, obviously, you can tell it's from a cell phone. It's obviously, but by the same token, very good, right? You can see Venus, you can see the moon. Excellent.
Pretty good.
If I can get a better image just as this is recording.
It's awe-inspiring
When I get
because
to this,
someone put it there.
Oh yeah, I got a building that I'm gonna be delivering to. I'm going up to the 49th floor. I'm gonna take a picture. It's a little bit foggy day, but I got clear pictures just as well of a mountain 14 miles away.
Right, I've got it up full screen, so at least we've got
Yeah,
one semi-decent image of it. Hopefully the audience can see that.
Tiff, man, I'm gonna send you pictures.
Thanks for sharing those. Thank you for sharing them.
All right.
Showtime.
Just at the moment, I need you all to be chatting, of course.
I thought it was showtime.
It is, but while I'm in those few moments beforehand, I'm doing things. No, you'd hope. you'd hope they'd be chit chatting, but no, there'll be a bit of dead air before I go to the backdrop.
Tiff, man, I sent you some more pictures.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, Paul, Flatsoid, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Good day, good day, good day.
Hello, hello.
Good morning.
Hello, hello.
Guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen. Any signs of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as Earth curvature?
Not some good Morgan.
Guten Morgen's just a good morning in German.
I thought it was a rum drink.
Maybe it's a rum drink called Good Morning in German. I don't know
Captain Good Morgan.
if you'd have rum for a good morning, but maybe some people do. Alcoholics.
Most people take a rum in the morning just to get the body going.
Boom, boom. So, geometric physical sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve. Anybody at all?
In orthographic view.
In
Has anybody
reality.
measured this so-called geometric curve?
No.
The Earth curve's starting to sound like a joke.
Earth curve is a joke.
Ain't none.
I've had somebody smash the super chat, so let's. Is where my organisation skills are obviously lacking woefully as I reload the page so I can actually read the damn thing. Shout out to Sean Tibbets, who gives me a thumbs up. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No.
Yes, yes, I see the picture. It's on your screen, Nathan.
That's epic. Hey, Chocolate.
P ways, S ways.
Good morning.
Good morning. P-ways and S-ways, they get it wrong though, don't they, Paul? Hello, by the way.
Yep, they drilled down and it didn't quite measure up the way they thought it would.
Seismological deep scanning technology has a long way to go.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No.
No.
It's a bit difficult to calculate something that keeps moving away.
I got a picture of the sun.
Epic. That's great.
That's not what the sun looks like.
There's a picture on screen. That's what they claim it looks like.
Well, you can measure its apparent location, but that may not be its true location, right?
What's apparent mean? Not actual. Appearing, but not actually.
That's right. Just apparently, but not real.
I see.
So, Paul, would you know its actual size or just its angular size, which is still anyway assumed?
You can only know your angular size. Angular. But that sounds like a fishing thing I need to do. Go angle or something, whatever the word is. I can't even say it.
Yeah, you need to know the distance before you can have angular size, and you need to know the angular size before you can have the distance.
Any
I have
sign-
seen them say that you can use. Oops, sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead. You're actually answering.
That's what I've actually.
Oh, you need actual size. For this.
Well, I have heard you can use a quarter and figure out the distance using a quarter, using trigonometry or whatever the word is. I've heard that before, but I've never actually done it.
Yeah,
You still need to confirm either distance or actual size, though.
Yeah, it's going to be hard with an intangible item, eh?
That method only puts you a quarter of the way there anyway. Boom, boom.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Ooh. Gravitational waves. I did a special presentation about it today.
Okay.
How about that? Yeah, I asked my audience, what is the speed of a gravitational wave, and how did they detect it without conjuring it in a man-made device? Surprise, surprise! People had some trouble answering the question.
Well, there's a problem with that too, because it's supposed to be the gravitational wave is the bending of space-time. Well, how would you measure something that's bending all of reality?
Well, they
How would you
say
do that?
that they have detected it in this device by the unnatural off phasing of certain light patterns. So that's it. And they haven't isolated whether it might be caused by something else, maybe for example, maybe it's the electric ether rotation, the same thing that causes ring laser gyroscopes to have that deviation. Maybe it was something like that. No, it's gravity waves. That's what causes the deviation. It's very hard to detect. It's absurdly hard. Oh, really?
So Owen, are you saying light is a wave?
Hold on, are you saying this is scientific evidence?
Well, there was he visited Caltech, apparently. There was a guy there. It was very weird. It sounded like complete astrophysics or something. But they did a supposed experiment with lasers and shit. And then said, oh, the laser went off phase and that's because of a gravitational wave. So we found the proof. Ooh.
Hold on. What I'm hearing
was that the 2017 version?
Hold on.
And then it came out in 2020.
I'm hearing.
Sorry,
I posted. It's your video. You posted it, and then I found a follow-up link.
I'm hearing.
And I think I posted that right after.
The follow-up was from 2017.
Oh, right.
Right.
I'm hearing a dependent variable. I'm hearing a dependent variable of laser. What now?
Yeah, right. Well, I don't think you heard any dependent variable.
Come on,
look, the phenomenon was conjured in the device because you can't even pick it up. It's apparently absurdly hard. So they made a device to conjure the phenomenon because they can't do it without it. Come on.
Right. So it's a conjured phenomenon. You haven't got an phenomena you're observing in nature, basically. So James Richard, thank you very much for the super chat. He says observation, isolation, variation, manipulation, and control is why gravity not applicable to either of those, and yet still called science. Right. You need an independent and a dependent variable if you're going to be calling it science. Most importantly, you need to actually observe something happening in the first instance, as opposed to conjuring it in a man-made device. Thanks for the super chat.
Yeah, it's not science. Easy.
No. You ask it again? Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Yeah, well, Nathan, will you play the first 50 seconds? It's CGI only of the video. I did it on my show too. It supposedly presents this proof in 50 seconds.
Yeah, sure. Get me the link and I'll put it up. Just send it in.
I haven't gotten a strike just yet, so I'll put the YouTube link.
It's not yours? No, definitely not then. Why are you even asking? I've not got a strike yet. Wonderful. Thanks, Alwi.
What? No, I haven't. I showed it for 50 seconds on my show today. Nobody's face in there. So
I'm not in front of the firing squad quite yet, but go ahead and show it.
No, I won't be. But thank you for offering to share that material that's not yours.
Let's
move on.
Can you maybe
you
can detail it?
Hold on, Flatsoid. Hold on. Maybe you can describe it, Arwin. Describe what debunks it? Or
it's literally a video of somebody describing what I just said with some CGI support. That's it.
Okay, I get it.
You
Sounds
can take a
empirical.
look at it in the background first if you like, but it's a pretty good
Thank you.
representation at least.
Please
Sounds like-
drop. Please drop asking me to play someone else's video
Sounds like
unprompted.
NASA chocolate.
during a live show. No, that's not going to happen.
All right, fine.
Hey, chocolate. Sounds like NASA CGI support.
Boom, boom.
Because it has to be.
I know. I just thought it was relevant, you know.
Oh God, he's not going to let it go. Oh, look, in the middle of a live show, I'm not going to check something, decide whether or not it's worthy.
I'm
of
just
risking.
justifying why I brought it up. That's all.
It's good to bring it up, but I'm just not going to play the video. Anyway, let's move on. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Well,
Don't know if that
maybe
works.
this video.
I knew it. I was waiting for it.
I asked that question in my show. Like, is this actual physics or is this astrophysics? I don't even know that officially about it.
That was a good one, Arvin.
So,
Is it claimed to be
We're
science? Do
trying to play.
they call it science at any stage, Arwin?
sorry.
Is it claimed to be science and lacking? We already established it's lacking dependent variable, right? So, do they claim it's science? If so, that's got a title. But do they actually claim it as science?
Well, that didn't really stand out, so they might have avoided that word, but they did like go to Caltech in that video and all that. But they might, yeah. I should have paid attention to that. I didn't hear it.
Well, if they did,
I
it's
remember.
pseudoscience, right? Well, that's obviously a lot more damning. But if they didn't, and they're just like, this is what we did, here's how we did it, well, it's just not science, if that's the case.
Right. I thought that the Caltech guy was kind of acting a bit weird, wearing sunglasses throughout the entire video and all that. I was like, what?
Wait, are you talking about the video named "The Absurdity of Capturing Gravitational Waves"?
Yes.
That one?
Yes.
Oh. Where they're basically making fun of the whole, what they did to actually get these gravitational waves. That's the one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a Veritasium video, so it's the same channel.
Please
Okay.
tell us what a gravitational wave is for the audience.
It's a ripple in the bending of space-time where the space-time locally apparently is 50 times more compressed, even though it doesn't really explain to me what that's supposed to do. It's 50 times more difficult than why is it still so absurdly difficult to pick it up? But yeah, it's a compression wave of space-time that ripples out apparently.
Yeah, but the guy quoted it very beautifully. He says, and I've heard Smoke in the Grass say the same thing. Matter tells space-time how to curve, and space-time tells matter how to move. Isn't that poetic?
Okay, if you're talking
And
about...
how did they find this out?
Hold on a second, 10th. If you're talking about the compressing time, well, you can't compress a concept. Likewise, you can't bend it either.
Conceptually, you can.
Conceptually, but physically, in reality, you cannot compress time. It's a concept.
Well, they're not technically compressing time. They're compressing space-time, which is something else.
Space-time is the fourth dimension of length, breadth, depth, and time, pseudo-Riemannian four space. So
Right, so it's
space-time is
not
just
time,
It's the collective.
space-time.
It's the collective dimension that includes time. It's still a conceptual medium.
Right, but it's not just isolating time and bending that. No, it's an amalgamation between the two that is being bent, that is being compressed. So it's both space and time is compressed a little in some way,
Yes,
apparently.
that's fascinating.
Even though
but-
it's absurdly hard to detect.
Thank you, Arwin. Yes, fascinating. But the point being that it's still conceptual.
Yeah.
That was a very Ed-esque yeah, both times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why are you fighting it?
No, that's yeah.
Yeah.
I said
Yeah,
yeah.
you're correct.
Right.
No, I'm not playing Ed here. Ed couldn't say this.
Yeah.
You'd have to Google it first.
You can't bend, compress, or otherwise time or space-time. These are both conceptual mediums, regardless if you incorporate length, breadth, and depth into it.
Well, we can't, but apparently exploding superstars or black holes can out there in the vacuum of space.
Within that
I'm
In
gonna
the what? In the what? Of the what?
I'm gonna imagine myself to have superpowers just because it's conceptual. It's real now.
Oh, by the way, this is all Chocolate's fault before posting that video this morning.
For the audience's benefit, this is all Arwen's fault, and not in the least bit Chocolate's.
No.
Yay.
Well, Arwen just bent. Arwen just bent the truth, though.
I shouldn't have brought it up first.
Didn't realize you did.
Yeah.
No, I just thought it was a really funny video. So
Well, give it a proper plug.
I just liked it because he started out the video with gravity doesn't exist. It's an illusion. Gravitational waves are the thing. Like he just starts it off that way. And it's hilarious because then you're reading the comments and it's like even the globe believers in there are like, uh-oh, flat earthers are going to jump on this. Like, well, that's not our problem. It's yours.
Yeah, that's the crucial detail. If somebody in the comments for that Veritasium video saying, "Oh, flat earthers will jump on this," why? Because you use 105-year out-of-date gravity, and someone's simply quoting the correct pseudoscience. We only tell you to quote it so we can pummel it. It's not like we're on the side of Veritasium when he describes bending space-time.
Exactly.
We only want you to parrot Einstein because it's much easier to pummel. I just pummeled it a minute ago with Arwen.
Yep.
Even Arwen's reluctant to take the pummeling. It's not even his rhetoric, but he still gave his Weasley yeah when its conceptual medium's being bent or compressed or otherwise.
Damn it. It's war out there.
Right. Moving on. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
Would it be able to be open and closed at the same time?
It's a valved system.
You'd need a container for it to have a valve.
The Zanuck valve.
Gravity is like a valve. It's open and closed at the same time.
Gravity's got nothing to do with this.
I know.
Step on a scale.
How can conceptual illusion anyway do anything about entropy?
It can't, it doesn't, it won't. They just assert it at trench level. And that assertion, while it is total nonsense in the case of the natural law that is entropy and gas behaviour, they still assert it. Now that's why it could be a problem, and people are saying, oh, flat earthers will be all over this when they talk about that Veritasium video, because we're telling them what their rhetoric is, a bit like with Coriolis Effect. Speaking of which, or any more on gas pressure without a container. No? Moving on. Any evidence of axial rotation? Check it out, got Neil deGrasse Tyson's cartoon avatar on screen going, yo, bro! I think he's stuck into Simon. Dan he's going, bro! Why you break my reference frames, dude?
Thank you, Simon.
Reference frames.
It's funny, just to bring it back to that Veritasium guy, he was also talking about reference frames. So apparently in their model, reference frames are a thing.
It'd be pretty careless to declare reference frames as ruined when there's no flat earth arguments that require reference frames. Just a total own goal.
Just his pizza globe.
I think we've covered all the housekeeping questions. I think that was the last one. Oh no, I always miss out R. Any evidence of the R value? Earth radius?
It's just a redundant term.
Black Swan.
Yeah.
May I say something on the Coriolis?
Can.
Well, the Coriolis is a visual effect. Coriolis vision. So how can something visual affect anything?
Can't. It's like claiming an illusion or a sight gag can cause something to happen. It can't.
Agreed. That's why I renamed it the Coriolis vision. And I would love if everybody would refer to it as the vision, the Coriolis vision. This way we take the power away from them.
Yeah,
Or you could use their own words. They like to call it an illusion.
Or
Their own citation. calls it an illusion. So yeah,
Of course, it is an illusion.
It is an illusion.
Or
but
you could,
I think you're
or
missing
you
the.
could say,
Hold on, 10th. I think you're missing the subtlety of SC Montreal's point. His point is that when you specifically use the word vision, you're tying it to the person viewing something, as opposed to them talking about aeroplanes and them accounting for something not occurring. Well, the Coriolis effect is you observing something. So when he says Coriolis vision, he's tying it to you being spinning, because they fight against that, right? The effect is induced by you turning underneath, attached to a reference frame that's spinning. That's how you get the effect. So Coriolis vision ties it specifically to you viewing it as you turn underneath. So when they come to fight against it and say, no, we wouldn't expect the plane to take a shorter duration because Earth's turning underneath, you've already tied them to, well, Earth turning underneath is what gives you Coriolis effect. So the moment they say that from here on out, thanks to Simon Dan, we can say, no, you need your 2 reference frames. You need to be turning underneath. That's what you're supposed to have. Coriolis effect. But most people on both sides don't know what it is. So yeah, I totally agree with you, SC Montreal. How do you tie them down to what the effect actually needs to be in effect? And that is you turning underneath observing stuff. So the Coriolis vision of the illusion, yeah, I'm all for that. Tie it to what it is. You spinning underneath looking at something. Not the thing you're looking at. Nothing to do with the thing you're looking at. It could be a concreted into the ground lamppost and you on a roundabout. Spinning around, looking at it coming towards you and then going away and coming towards you. Well, it's concreted into the ground. The not actual effect that you observe is you spinning underneath, and the only way it happens is if you spin underneath. So when they tell us, we don't spin underneath because, they've just debunked their own claim. And up until now, they've managed to use the burden of proof reversal fallacy and somehow get us to fight for them to claim their own claim, rather than just pointing out that as soon as they claim conservation of angular momentum, they're debunking the claim of drift.
That's I also support that.
Yes, sir. And they also, because it takes away, they always say that, well, it's spinning and blah, blah, blah. And, it's an effect of the centrifugal force. But when you say Coriolis vision, that kills it before they even say it.
Exactly. Well, no, nothing to do with the force that the projectile is going to be experiencing. It's merely me observing as I turn underneath. And if I'm not turning underneath, stuff not attached, I'm not observing Coriolis deviation. So the moment they describe an effect that is induced from conservation of momentum in the target that you're supposed to be looking at as you turn underneath, they're flying in the face of the claim we turn underneath and defending the fact that we don't turn underneath, which is precisely what they're required to prove we spin. So when they fly in the face of it, just point it out to them. So what's that? Bullet conserves momentum. Well, that's got sod all to do with Coriolis effect, but if that was the case, you wouldn't observe drift from the ground as you turn underneath, as you claim you do. We don't. Or we'd see that effect, and we don't. It would shorten flight times. And when they go, well, we wouldn't expect flight times, they've got Coriolis indicators and they account for it. No, they can't, because it's only observed from the ground as you turn underneath it. So we've got to be turning underneath aeroplanes to observe this effect. And if we're not turning underneath it, we're not having that effect, we're not spinning.
I think it's
Coriolis
just
vision.
they forgot a key word, and when they called it Coriolis effect, they forgot a word. They should have called it Coriolis optical effect. That's all it is.
Yeah,
I like
That's where
vision
the
too,
vision comes in,
but it's
bro.
like
Coriolis
it's
vision
just a sight
kills
gag,
it.
like
Boom.
the quantum race calls it. It's nonsense.
He's right. Chocolate is right, but you're just using a slightly more posh word. The optics of Coriolis is, in bare bones English, looking at it. So that's what it's going to involve. You looking at something and describing what you see in the effect. So we're going to have the person on the ground observing it. And as soon as they're not turning, they're not observing Coriolis effect. So we have got to, as flat earthers, tie our opponents to what they claim. You claim 2 reference frames, Earth turns underneath. No, it doesn't, because planes would have shortened flight times. When they say, no, we wouldn't expect planes to have shortened flight times, the plane's doing blah, blah, blah. Sod all to do with Coriolis, I'm afraid, my friend. You claim we observe things drifting because we turn underneath. Don't justify why the plane isn't drifting, because you're saying we don't have this drift effect because we're turning underneath, because we're not turning underneath, so we're not experiencing Coriolis, as is absolutely claimed by the globe side, to prove we spin. So let's start pointing it out like it is. So you claim there's no drift. Well, there's no proof we spin then.
Beautiful. Like when you say, Nathan, we see it because it's there, that kills all their crap that they're going to say after that. We see it because it's there.
Yeah, and it's a real effect. You can see it on a roundabout. Look at anything not attached to the roundabout you're spinning on and you'll see Coriolis deflection. It'll seem like it's doing something it isn't. Well, the only reason you see it seeming to do something it isn't is because you're spinning. So you've got to be spinning to have the effect. And all they do all day long is justify why we don't have Earth spinning underneath. Because they know damn well that our rebuttal to their claim of Coriolis, that would be Earth spinning underneath, is that flight times would be reduced, and they're not. So this is going to get more concise for the people who fight against the claim we turn. We don't. We're stationary. If we did, we'd have Coriolis effect. They claim we do, and we don't. It's just that simple.
Yep.
So after all that detailed explanation for any who followed along, and again, maybe 50% of the people watching will follow along. If you find that derogatory, tough luck. It's been demonstrated here plenty of times. Most of the people on the globe side don't understand what Coriolis effect is, and the same goes for flat earthers most of the time. They don't really know what the effect is, and they go to research it, and who can blame them for getting confused? It's all detailed in doublespeak nonsense about things like hurricanes. And the effect is only observed as you turn underneath stuff, nothing to do with turning hurricanes. Because it's a not actual deflection you observe as you turn underneath stuff. Hurricanes have got an actual spin direction, but they're detailed in a convoluted cluster screw of nonsense when you go to Wiki and Wiki Coriolis Effect. Starts off as effect. It's got a little GIF that explains it. Ball seems to drift because you turn underneath it. Ball's actually travelling straight. Really simple explanation in the GIF with a one-word detailed explanation. Maybe 2 sentences tops. But then next to it, it's got paragraph after paragraph after paragraph where it takes it from a not actual deflection as you rotate underneath to a Coriolis force. And then that force turns into something that's actually causing hurricanes to spin. And it's all nonsense. Absolutely nothing to do with Coriolis effect. But if you were to read that on either side of the argument, you're gonna get confused. And Coriolis is simple. It's induced because you turn underneath stuff. So the second our opponents on the globe side start arguing against us turning against stuff, they're effectively debunking their own claim that we do.
It sounds a lot like their geometric horizon, rest in peace, that they've lost. Like their little response to that refraction is an automatic debunk, because if it's refracted, it's not geometric.
Yeah.
Yeah, their arguments are falling fast.
We see it because it's there is beautiful statement. Sorry to interrupt you.
In the case
What
of
about when they
geometry,
say
that's...
the Earth and the atmosphere travel as one? Then there's only one
no
reference point,
Coriolis then?
correct?
Yeah, just
Yes.
play out that
That's what my
conversation
son
again.
said.
Hold on, Neil.
He said you don't get it. The Earth and the atmosphere are moving together, and then I tell him, yeah, but then you're arguing for one reference frame, and you need 2, right?
Yeah. And if you don't understand the argument, that's where you'll step in and debunk the claim that we have drift with 2 reference frames. Or worse still, make it overtly clear to any audience watching or listening when quoted, Simon Dan, you and your reference frames have been ruined. That would be to assert that we don't have 2 reference frames, the very thing that is needed to claim drift. Not by the flat earth side, we don't need reference frames, but the globe side does. And if you don't understand what Coriolis effect is, you're going to step in with your size 10s and debunk it. When you think you're doing a good job tweeting me about how my reference frames that I don't have, don't use, don't require are ruined. That's clown behaviour by people who don't understand what Coriolis effect is. Embarrassing. For Dan and any who think that the Earth is spinning. It isn't. We'd have Coriolis drift 2 reference frames if Earth was spinning, precisely as claimed by Neil deGrasse Tyson. That's what Coriolis is supposed to be on Earth. But we don't have Earth-based Coriolis effect, because Earth doesn't turn underneath stuff. If it did, we'd have reduced flight times when travelling west, and we don't.
Yeah, I'll just climb on my pogo stick and hop to you quickly, Jay. Nathan, won't take too long.
I missed the beginning bit of that, so it won't take too long?
I'll climb on my pogo stick and hop to you. It wouldn't take too long. Just wait for the Earth to spin underneath.
Yeah, just jump up in the air and the Earth should turn underneath if there's a second inertial reference frame and you spinning underneath it, as is claimed. Your drone would drift away at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator, not because it's got a really powerful motor. It would be not actual deflection that you'd be observing as it whizzed away at 1,000 miles an hour, because the Earth would be turning underneath it, as is claimed. It does. It just doesn't. Earth isn't turning underneath anything. It's absurd.
Still would very much like to know why all these little hurricanes that we have all appear very rotaty in the inertial reference frame.
So
There are claims that they move straight in the inertial reference frame. So
but you see, Chocolate, this is what I wanted to explain to you yesterday with the general relativity, why it debunks hurricanes.
Hold on. Hurricanes are real. You don't want to be saying things like that. You're not trying to debunk hurricanes.
No, debunk the claim that hurricanes are caused by Coriolis.
Yeah, they're not. It's not actual deflection, and hurricanes have an actual spin direction. Unless you're in the hurricane, watching something on the ground that's attached to the ground, not moving, come towards you as you spin in the hurricane.
This is where the vision explanation comes in. If it's vision, if it's a visual effect, it can't affect nothing, not even a mosquito.
Yeah, and the only way it's translatable to hurricanes, or to scale it down a bit to make it easier to understand, in a whirlwind, if you were caught up in the whirlwind, physically in the whirlwind, so you were part of that reference frame spinning around, you observing a fire hydrant or a lamppost in the ground, concreted into the ground, as you turn in the hurricane or turn in the whirlwind, you would see the fire hydrant coming towards you as you spin towards it. Now, obviously, the hydrant isn't actually moving. It would be you turning towards it in a twister. That's the only way you could induce Coriolis deflection and not actual effect from you turning and something you're observing not turning with you. But as for you being on the ground looking at a hurricane, absolutely nothing to do with Coriolis effect. Because you're claimed to be turning underneath on an Earth that spins with Coriolis effect, and that's going to induce a not actual deflection, a sight gag, an illusion. Not make wind spin. It's you supposed to be spinning underneath it. It's just nonsense designed to confuse people. And up until now, 2020, it's worked. Well, up until recently, when we realised that the burden of proof was being reversed, when we say, no, you claim Earth turns underneath stuff and you're saying it all rotates together. That's nonsense in itself. We haven't, up until this point, been saying, well, that means no drift. Until we got a nice quote to go along with it, which is useful. You and your reference frames have been ruined. No drift, says Simon Dan.
I would say we've been saying it for a while because they've been coming up with that. Oh, the atmosphere does rotate together, but sometimes it doesn't. We've been saying it for a bit. It's just I think Dan helped out with his your reference frames have been ruined. So thanks, Dan, once again. Look it up.
Yeah, we've all become fans of Simon Dan overnight because he inadvertently agrees with us. Because he can't not be agreeing with us. We don't have any reference frames to be ruined. So there's only one set of reference frames that are argued about, and whose are they? Well, they're the globe sides. So it's really fortunate that Dan's on our side debunking Earth turn. Thanks, Dan.
We should create a poster of, a twister with a cow in the twister, and Simon Dan's face on the cow, going, "Moo and your reference frames are ruined."
Moo and your reference frames. That's terrible. Moo and your reference frames. Very good.
Any Globers have any reference frames they would like to talk about in the Discord or something?
If there's any Globers in there at all, can you see the Discord server?
I've had about 8 Globers telling me I don't understand, and every time I tell them, come on the live debate, we'll talk, they just, run away. So I think everybody's too scared to come on the show.
Well, there is no gaps at the moment, so maybe there's someone itching to join and defend Simon Dan's egregious error. I doubt it. He doesn't seem to be getting a great deal of support on this front, does he?
I just found something, if you'll let me read it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. You are coupled to the reference frame of the Earth. While on the surface, your velocity relative to the Earth is 0. If you start to levitate above the ground, you are still attached to the reference frame of the Earth. and will hover over the same spot on the ground. It's no different than riding in an airplane, standing in the aisle, jumping in the air, and assuming that you'll stop traveling at the 550 miles per hour the airplane is flying. If you want to separate yourself from the Earth's reference frame, you would have to decelerate yourself by 1,000 miles per hour at the equator, and you would have to compensate for the forces that come from the atmosphere slamming into you at 1,000 miles per hour. The atmosphere is also attached to the Earth's reference frame. This would take a lot of energy.
So that flies in the face of the assertion that Neil deGrasse Tyson makes, that when a football is kicked, the Earth turns underneath, causing not actual deflection observed from somebody in the stand. Or to put it another way, you in the stand see the ball seem to curve, but it's only seeming to curve because Earth is turning underneath as a second reference frame. It's also claimed that snipers have to account for Coriolis deflection as the bullet leaves the frame of reference that turns underneath, moving the target. So they have to lead the target because apparently it's claimed Earth turns underneath. That would be the claim of Coriolis as handed down by the High Priesthood. I'm not entirely sure where your reference came from, Neil, but that flies in the face of the fundy assertion that we have Coriolis effect to prove we spin, also asserted by gyroscopes and pendulums. It's claimed Earth turns underneath as a second, non-inertial reference frame. Not that they attach together, not that you move as one with a single reference frame, because that wouldn't give you drift. And they claim there's 15 degrees of it per hour.
But also that debunks them anything about saying.
Neil, could you read the part where it says what you would have to do to detach yourself from the Earth frame reference?
Yeah, if you want to separate yourself from the Earth's reference frame, you would have to decelerate yourself by 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. And you would have to compensate for the forces that come from the atmosphere slamming into you at 1,000 miles per hour. The atmosphere is also attached to the Earth's reference frame.
Would you send us that link?
The guy that kicked the field goal, he did all that with that football then?
No, it's in complete polar opposition to the claim made by Neil deGrasse Tyson, Chocolate.
And then compensated for the atmosphere
No.
slamming into that ball, therefore giving it that slight edge to make that field goal. And then he just did a quick calculation to figure all that out. That's cute.
No,
this kind of sounds to me like he's coming from a general relativity standpoint.
The question was, if the Earth is rotating at a high speed and
sounds like they don't know what to do,
why doesn't the Earth move below us at high speed?
It's claimed it does. It's
there
claimed
were several
it does.
contradictions there.
Yeah, it's a contradiction of their claim we have Coriolis effect. And they say, I will assume
Correct.
Earth and atmosphere travel as one. It's like, well, what are you going to get to actually prove Earth is turning underneath to give you 15 degrees an hour deflection? As that is very much laid down in the rhetoric of Foucault, and the claim even asserted as being proven by Bob Nodell. Not that it was his ring laser or fibre optic, to be more accurate, gyroscope. Nevertheless, it's asserted as his because he detailed it on a Netflix presentation. However, the assertion they use from that piece of apparatus is an assertion that there's two reference frames. Earth turning underneath, gyro in an inertial reference frame, and the cage drifting because Earth turns underneath. Also, bullets, as asserted by snipers, as detailed earlier by me, and footballs, as detailed by Neil deGrasse Tyson. There's very much a claim that Earth turns underneath as a separate reference frame, called Coriolis Effect. But this citation flies in the face of that. Where's that from, Neil?
Yeah, so they're contradicting each other.
Where's the citation from?
Oh, that's I just Googled it. Let me see. Something Quora? Quora?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Go.
What a shocker.
Go ahead and post it, Neil and Master B, because there were so many contradictions there.
Let me send it to Master B. Give me a second.
Yeah, shocker. Quora's like high-level trench.
That site.
Go on, Montreal.
Sorry, Nathan. That site, Quora sends me a lot of crap. So we should take that with a grain of salt.
Well, it's wrong. It's contradicting the claim we have 15 degrees drift. it's quite literally contradicting the actual rhetoric handed down by Neil deGrasse Tyson. So whoever's posted that on Quora is just wrong. It's not the actual rhetoric.
I see value for it because they're debunking their own claim right there. I'm going to keep that one. That's a good one.
For some reason, I get a lot of references to that place. I always see it in my mailbox. Quora.
Well, you and your Quora references are ruined.
Okay, it's there.
Yeah, I posted it. It's up on screen for the audience's benefit. Say who wrote it? No. So yeah, if you want to separate yourself from Earth's reference frame, you'd have to detach yourself at about 1,000 miles per hour. Not according to Neil deGrasse Tyson. According to him, drift. Not according to the sniper's handbooks. According to them, drift. Not according to Foucault. According to Foucault and his pendulum and gyro, drift. 15 degrees of it an hour. Separate reference frames. This is pissing in the face of the actual claim that's supposed to prove Earth spinning. So if there's nothing to detect, according to this, and you're automatically a single reference frame, how exactly, pray tell, would this prove we're spinning? Because there's nothing to detect. In other words, you wouldn't tell. Well, according to the claim of a globe Earth that spins, you've got Coriolis deflection at 15 degrees an hour as Earth turns underneath. However, if that was the case, that would shorten flight times. So, again, it doesn't matter if it's Quora, the same thing absolutely applies. Which sword do you want to die by? Your sword that says there's nothing to prove Earth spinning? No drift? Oh, right. Well, you've got no drift. So no 15 degrees an hour then, Quora. No worries, you die by that sword. Or, yeah, we do have drift. Yeah, we agree with the priest Neil deGrasse Tyson. So what is it? Like Simon Dan, should the author of this garbage be put to task? Well, according to Tyson, you have drift at 15 degrees an hour demonstrated with a football. And then suddenly you've got weasels like Simon Dan and the author of this garbage going, oh, no, I believe the drift. It's like we've just described how we don't have it. Well, if we don't have 15 degrees of drift because it's all attached as a single reference frame, then you don't have drift proving we spin. It is that simple. But they'll assert the contrapositive of their actual claim, which is to debunk the claim we have separate reference frames and assert that there's only one. What, reference frames ruin then, Quora? No drift. Thanks for debunking Earth turn. Maybe you need to get on the line and start telling us how you do believe it, even though you've just debunked it. Ooh, got a super chat. Out to Al Junkie, he says, if Keith Richard dies, well, how morbid, will Earth turn under Keith? That's dire.
I don't think Keith Richards ever going to die.
But will Earth turn under Keith?
I'm a Keith. It's not turning on me.
Well, we've established the answer, Al Junkie. Earth is not turning under Keith.
One thing's for sure, the stone will stop rolling.
Who got that citation, by the way? Was it Neil? Neil, thank you for that, because it's excellent that we can actually put on screen what I tried to explain to the audience as convoluted doublespeak from Wiki. And here's another citation that proves exactly that. What you require as a globe-believing fundy is that Earth turns underneath. And we need you to assert that because we can pummel it by proving it doesn't with a flight time that's not reduced when travelling west, as Earth turns underneath it, as you're supposed to be claiming. But as soon as we point that out, they say, no, it travels as one reference frame. So now they're just going to die by that sword, which is no drift then. So Foucault was wrong then. Not two reference frames then. Reference frames ruin then, Quora, Simon Dan. And watch them grovel to the almighty god of drift. Yes, Simon Dan, Rumpus, yeah. I believe the drift. Yeah, you better, because it's your rhetoric. Not one reference frame, nothing turning underneath. Your rhetoric is drift. Stuff turning underneath at 15 degrees. You better believe it. It ain't true, though, because it would shorten flight times.
Don't you just love how general relativity debunks Coriolis?
Yes, I love it.
So the actual gravity claims actually debunks their own claims.
Well, I like
Yeah, they contradict
This
themselves.
is why they sound the way they do, because all their claims debunk all their other claims. It's ridiculous.
That's right.
But that's where you end up
Like
with
the conservation of momentum.
Well, not Coriolis, SC Montreal. I was going to say, where they've got weak-ass arguments, it seems that they've got a preemptive strike against flat earthers. So Chocolate mentioned earlier about the geometric physical sphere edge horizon that would require a tangent point and we're told is refracted, debunking the geometry. That would be the Black Swan argument. If the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959, then every distance to horizon can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and the Black Swan shows the horizon way in excess of 10 miles at a 1 foot observer height, putting it at 1.2 if it is to be asserted with geometry. Now, the rebuttal from the globe side to that very argument is to say that the horizon's refracted. Now, their refraction requires the R value in their geometry to have been measured. In other words, you would require the horizon to have been physical at some stage. And it's not by rebuttal, leaving the model in a paradox. So what do we have as a preemptive strike? Well, we're told, or the general populace is told, that flat earthers believe boats go over the edge on a model that's held up as a straw man by a society we are no way a part of. That would be Flat Earth Society. But they've got a little picture of a boat going off the edge of a pizza pancake Earth. So that they can laugh at us for our assertion, that we don't make, that boats go over an edge. They spill over the edge with all the water. Well, in reality, the globe assertion is that boats go over a sphere edge. They call their horizon a physical geometric sphere edge. Tangent point that they measure to, and they claim obstructs the bottoms of boats and buildings. So they literally have boats going over the edge, and a preemptive strike on us. Same goes for things like the assertion that there's a dome, to send it into ridicule in things like Simpsons, lowering a glass bowl over the top of an entire town. When in reality, their assertion is the sky is a vacuum. A really pathetic argument. Nature abhors a vacuum, yet our sky is one. No. So what do you do? Preemptively ridicule the flat earth assertion we have a dome. It's made of sapphire or glass. No, I don't make that assertion. Nobody on my panel makes that assertion. But we'll be ridiculed in advance for making that claim when we actually state the reality of containment being required to have gas pressure. A sky vacuum being an area for the gas we breathe to fill. And fill it must, as it expands in all directions.
What they don't understand, Nathan, is when you say all gas pressure requires containment, we're not saying there is a container. We're just saying there is no sky vacuum. It's as easy as that.
I used to argue it that way, but I don't see the need to not assert it. You absolutely require containment. A few people tried to have me on it. I'm like, why am I even denying this? Without the container, there can be no pressure. So, without the container, there can be no pressure. Shout out to Retro Billy, says a baller's average day. Eat, sleep, lose, repeat. Thanks, Retro
It's more
Bill.
like repeat 20 times a day.
Sounds like a movie title.
Let's not forget the other little straw man that they like to throw at us with their little Earth rising 9.8 meters per second square. That's funny that they throw that on us, but then at the same time got people like Brian Cox saying, hey, that's what Einstein described general theory.
Cutting out chocolate.
Yes.
Hey,
Relativity.
Dan, I have the name for the... Sorry.
No, go on.
10th, I have the name for the show, for the series.
Go
As
ahead.
the Earth does not spin.
With all the other
Just-
soap operas.
Just stick it in the microwave, remember?
So,
Chocolate was making
could
a
any
point
of you
before.
perhaps
Hold on.
explain to me how theory of relativity can be described in Euclidean space?
Yes, you
Can't.
can lay out your challenge in a second, Darwin. I just want to round out what Chocolate was saying because he started to break up and he was making a really good point in terms of the assertion from the controlled opposition Flat Earth Society narrative that Earth is rising up at 9.8 meters per second in this pancake with an edge the boats fall over, in spite of the fact that it's part of globe Earth rhetoric that we have 9.8 meters per second and an edge for boats to go over. Not only that, this is where I was going to step in, but as I say, Chocolate broke up. They've also got it rising up through what now? Anybody on the panel? What's Flat Earth Society's pancake rising up at 9.8 per second through?
Outer space.
Outer space, right.
Yeah.
Isn't that amusing? We debunk the claim that you've got this region, this sky vacuum, and yet the Flat Earth Society have got it very much part of their narrative.
Right, because they gotta have satellites, remember?
I don't know what the Flat Earth Society are playing at. They're just a way of pouring scorn and giving a load of nonsense assertions, half the time to be ridiculed by the globe side against flat earthers, when in reality it's a spun version of their own narrative. Boats going over the edge, look how stupid these flat earthers are with their pancake and a boat falling over the edge of it. Meanwhile, we'll calculate with geometric physical assumption bias that the horizon which moves with the weather is actually the edge of a sphere for boats to go over. You want to lay down your challenge, Arwin, with your Euclidean and your pseudo-Ramonian? Hello, Arwin.
Owen, hello.
Maybe he's crashed.
But it's simple. You can't.
Well, typically
Euclidean works with straight lines.
I can just do it for him because I know his challenge. So Arwin's laid down a challenge that was originally laid down by Quantum Eraser, which is to say, explain the gravitational pull of the moon on Earth with Einsteinian mathematics. So use Einstein's field equations to explain the gravitational attraction between the body of mass, that's your vernacular, not mine, that is the moon, and the body of mass that is claimed to be a spherical Earth in a sky vacuum. Explain that with Einsteinian gravity. Fundies. That would be Arwin's challenge.
Easy. Trampoline.
No, with the field equations. not with.
Oh, you want equations? Sorry.
The ones that can be solved numerically or can't be solved numerically.
Once Arwin comes back, I'll let him. I don't want to take his punchline for him. I've already given his challenge.
Come back.
Okay,
Sorry.
I've given you. I've laid down your challenge, but did you want to lay down the reasoning behind the challenge and the failure that will ensue as a result of your challenge? Go ahead, Arwin.
Again, I asked, how does thing work? Theory of relativity work in Euclidean space, yes. Because this is something that I also treated on my show this morning. I'll keep it short. I'll try to keep it short. It's like a new subject in a way. I think I figured out that this whole idea of a theory of relativity rests on a mechanism psychologically, so not information-wise, but psychologically, which is very similar as to how you conceive or how you observe Coriolis effect, by basically attaching yourself from force conceptions from Euclidean thinking and just starting to think in reference frames. And I think that is the same thing that the general theory of relativity does. While if you just look at the really is level in Euclidean space, just like GPS coordination systems, then this idea, oh no, wait, you're not moving, it just doesn't make any sense. Because there's natural consequences, forces that come with motion, that are the cause of or created by motion and all that, and acceleration. So, and there's none of that. And general relativity completely overlooks all of that. It doesn't address motion forces at all.
Yeah,
sorry.
Well said, because it's conceptual. Well said.
Took a little long. But yeah, it's
Well,
according to again.
according to the Veritasium guy, you have to accelerate in order to stand still. That shit seems legit to
Would
me.
you guys agree that it is a mechanism of basically pulling your psyche, where you focus on with your conscious, away from typical Euclidean and physics thinking into these reference frame conceptions? It's what they're doing. It's not the end result. It's the action pulling you in that was the intended goal, I think.
Reference frames, you say? You and your reference frames have been ruined. Simandan.
Yeah.
Or when it's like he's kind of explaining a flat disk accelerating upwards, but because of bending space-time, it wraps itself as a globe.
Oh, hold on. You're gonna have to fill Arwin in on your bias on this. So Flatzoid thinks he's hinting at flat Earth with this. I don't know if you agree, Arwin.
The Flat Earth Society?
No, Veritasium.
Well, they directly lent the concept from Einstein's reference frame thinking. So,
No, not Flat Earth Society. No, not 9.8 meters per second pancake flying up through a sky vacuum. No, Veritasium. Go ahead, Flatzoid. Do you want to just break it down for Arwin? You've done it in the pre-show if you're watching this twice.
The way he explains it is actually a flat Earth, but because of the bending of space-time, it's kind of wrapping itself in a globe. That's why it can go in all directions straight up.
what?
Describing bending geodesics in space-time, and he's saying because that wrapping into a globe shape would imply that the bending space-time, the geodesics he's describing, implies, according to Flatzoid, that it's actually flat. That's what he's suggesting. Now, space is flat, even in their narrative, but I don't think he's hinting at a flat Earth. Flatzoid thinks differently.
I didn't see that either. He was just talking about space-time relations. You know, the bending is the space-time. It's basically describing the effects of circumdicular thinking and geometry. That's what it doesn't relate to what you said, I think.
It's like curving out straight lines. It is. It's the same as your challenge, actually. The general relativity with Euclidean space. It's the same type of thing. They're just, how can I say, making straight lines curved.
You know,
they're making straight lines curved.
Precisely what they're doing. Yes, making straight lines bent. Yes.
Right.
Non-Euclidean.
Just like the crooked cross.
With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
In reference to what he said, because he said that in order to disconnect from the frame of reference of the Earth, that you'd have to, what was it, Neil? You'd have to decelerate 1,000 miles per hour.
Yeah, decelerate 1,000 miles per hour. Yeah.
Decelerate. Right.
Okay.
Decelerate. Yeah. Because obviously they've already got you moving at 1,000 miles per hour.
Correct.
So in order to disconnect from the frame of reference of the Earth, you'd have to decelerate from that speed. And then what? Compensate for the atmosphere running into your face? That was the rest of it?
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Nonsense.
Yeah, you see, that's where I said they're just using general relativity. It's the same as saying a skydiver's falling. No, he's not falling. We're moving up towards him.
Yeah,
Right.
general relativity, yep.
Well, my question is, if they're moving as one, why would you have to decelerate?
In order to actually have these reference
let me
frames
just-
you're already supposed to have.
No.
That's it.
Well,
No. To answer Tent's question, it's why would you have to? Because the assumption, with no deviation provable in the example, is that you're already moving at a vast speed that you're just not noticing. So it's just a begging the question fallacy. They assume you're spinning.
Yeah, they've already got you moving.
No,
Yeah,
that's where I'm
so-
going with it. So they've already got you moving at 1,000 miles per hour. And then they're saying some in connection to whatever the context is, you have to do something, and that something is decelerate 1,000. But how do you do that? And if they're moving as one, how's that accomplished?
Couldn't do that.
You can't.
That doesn't
Even
make
a-
any sense.
Even according
Just
to
like-
their rhetoric, even if you turn around the opposite direction and run 1,000 miles, are you still not decelerating? That's what I'm saying. How they explain it is actually a flat Earth, just bending it over a globe.
So they're essentially debunking the only way they would have two reference frames.
Exactly. They're debunking the only way they can prove drift in the first place.
Well, I got an even weirder one for you guys. Look, if an orbit is described as a perpetual bent straight line falling path, as it were, and then realizing what the presupposed setup of the cosmos is, the galaxy, all these spin and another spin around another spin, then think about, like, how can an object fall persistently in several routes in different directions at the same time? How can that all work out according to their mechanism?
That's what I'm telling you. They're explaining it actually as a flat surface wrapped around a globe, so they can have all directions at once.
It's the same way you
That
can
doesn't
work out
explain
how
it at all.
fast it would take the Flash to run around the Earth. Because it's all in mathematics. It doesn't exist.
But the thing is,
Physicality.
and things only fall in one direction, basically.
It's still only falling in one direction if you do it that way. Think about
falling
it.
process, right? The falling process is always in a singular direction. But according to the heliocentric supercosmology, it's falling in several circular directions at the same time. Subbody on subbody.
Oh, but remember, they said at different speeds the deeper you go into space.
Hello, conceptual medium.
Yeah, it's all conceptual. We're just having fun at their rhetoric.
Well, be
I'm
careful.
just trying to wrap my head around how those mechanics are supposed to work.
Well, if you detail them too well, one of their side will come along and think you're claiming it and try and debunk you. So keep it up.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind.
Let's do that.
Please come, please.
Yeah.
We want some new blood on here.
Yeah, so the longer we detail globe arguments, the more people who know we're flat earthers hear it and go, well, that's nonsense. Like the claim that we've got two reference frame, Earth spinning underneath. They hear that when we're detailing it and go, what a load of nonsense, I can debunk that. I can show that Earth doesn't turn underneath. And then they give you brilliant quotes like, you and your reference frames have been ruined. Simon Dan. Because they're idiots.
So maybe a glober out there can potentially take what we just talked about and actually disprove that the Earth is going in several different orbit falling paths at the same time somehow.
That's a YouTube argument. So he used to, he doesn't anymore because we're having this conversation right now, point out that we were shilled because we didn't detail the waltzer-style forces that you would experience in their claimed heliocentric world with multiple directions of travel. You'd have speed changes.
That does seem to be the most natural assumption. Yes.
Yeah, you know what's bogus actually about it? Because they claiming that the further out of you go, the slower your velocity becomes, but you're supposed to have faster velocity the further you're out, is it not? Because you have to become faster to circumnavigate something.
Super rotation.
Yeah, so they're actually going opposite of what has to happen.
Well, I could sum up the Coriolis in one word if you want me to.
Go on.
Just don't say friction.
Friction.
No, friction's got subtle to do with a not actual deflection observed as you rotate underneath stuff. That's a shout out to anybody. Of course, this is the after show now, so if you're watching this, you did see that at the beginning. Or at least I hope you did. Go back and watch it if you didn't.
Yeah, my poor coffee table's sticking to friction with the fan. Aish.
You want to hear another
Unfortunately,
conundrum?
your
of the
coffee
Coriolis?
table is accelerating upwards, so it's great.
No, it's not accelerating upwards at 9.8 meters per second. But go ahead, SC Montreal.
Let's say a plane was to take off at the so-called North Pole, heading south towards the equator. Right? It starts off at 0 rotation. How does it build up to 1,037 at the equator?
So what you're doing is you're taking the Quora quote, and yeah, what you're describing, in line with the Quora quote, is a first law of thermodynamics violation. To add the velocity from 0 rotation up to 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, as described in your example, you'd have to gain momentum from nowhere, attain the spin velocity of the Earth that's supposed to be drifting underneath you to prove it spins, but in this Quora quote it isn't, debunking the claim we have drift. But in that rhetoric, you've got a first law of thermodynamics violation. It's the same principle as if you go up in a drone or a helicopter. So if they're saying it all travels together, as you increase height, the distance that you would actually travel over a spherical surface would increase. Your actual circumference is increasing as you go up in height. Therefore, you've got to increase the velocity that you're travelling at to keep the ground beneath you. That's the first law of thermodynamics violation.
Yep.
Wow.
Total nonsense.
That's dumb.
But that, like I say, I don't want to get into that anymore. It's like, so you're claiming they travel together. No drift then. So Foucault was wrong then.
Don't.
Yeah, Foucault was wrong.
There he is. They don't travel together, Ed, or they do?
No, they do. They don't.
Why are we asking Ed?
Came only to ask questions.
We know the rhetoric better than they do. They claim drift. There isn't any. It would reduce flight times.
You really don't know what Coriolis is, do you?
Yeah, it's you turning
can you tell us,
underneath in
Ed?
a non-inertial spinning reference frame, observing things that aren't attached seem to drift.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, really. So it's you spinning underneath stuff that's not attached and watching it seem to drift because you spin underneath. That's absolutely correct.
No, that's fucking dumb. You need to be moving in order to conserve momentum, because that's what movement is, dumbass.
Sorry, Coriolis effect is not actual drift being observed. It's an observation. It's nothing to do with momentum being conserved. It's a not actual drift observed as you spin underneath. You understand that Coriolis is not actual deflection. Oh, no, not conserving anything. It's not actual deflection.
Right.
No,
so if a
It's just visually.
helicopter hovers
just a
above
visual.
your head, do you expect it to be moving?
Sorry, do I expect Earth to turn
Do you-
underneath? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah. Do you think that's what Coriolis is?
No, but you do. That's your claim. You claim Earth turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour. Why are you rumpusing me? Why are you rumpusing me? Fundy mute. Fundy mute
Because
time.
you're
Yeah,
making
definitely
another
fundy mute
straw
time.
man.
Yeah, definitely fundy mute time. No.
Yeah.
Can you stop, Ed? Do you mind? Yeah, that's your claim. You claim on Globe side.
Wrong.
Still fundy muting me, Ed. Try again. It's a bit triggered. Do you want to get it all out? Share your pain, Ed. Share your pain.
Are you gonna strawman us again?
Are you
Nathan?
going to let me
Is that
finish without fundy muting me? Let's try again.
it? Are you gonna make another strawman?
Yeah, you're just constantly fundy muting me. You haven't let me say it once. That is your claim. Yes. You are supposed to expect Earth to turn underneath the helicopter at whatever rate is dictated by the latitude and claimed speed of the Earth underneath. That's what Coriolis deflection is. It would be you observing the helicopter seem to drift away because you're turning underneath it. That's what you claim. Now, that's not true, because if we turned underneath a helicopter and watched it seem to drift away, it would take off in one spot, and then the spot it took off from would be somewhere else when it landed. And we don't observe that happening. Earth isn't turning underneath. That's your claim. So to answer your question, would I expect Earth to turn underneath as a second reference frame? No. But you would. It just doesn't happen.
Wrong. That's another straw
If you want
man.
to have it on the live screen for Ed, it's in Master B.
Okay, I'll stick it up for the audience's benefit.
Yeah, I'm not gonna click there.
Can I quickly ask?
It's not for you. You're a dumbass. You don't even understand your own argument. We're just about to debunk you real quick.
Can I ask Ed one question quickly?
Hang on, Flat. Sorry. Chocolate said, Nathan, if you would like to.
Why? Hold on.
Excuse me. When Chocolate says, Nathan, would you like to? How did you change that to you?
It's up on screen.
He thinks he's the center of attention. Ed, we're laughing at you, Ed.
So I've got a Globe Earth's rhetoric about Earth turning underneath. It says, because Earth is turning beneath it, the object is not actually moving off its course. It only appears to be doing so because Earth is turning underneath. Now, obviously, if Earth was turning underneath objects that appeared as you spin underneath them to deflect, as described by ThoughtCo, and as is the Globe Earth rhetoric, then Earth's turning underneath helicopters, Ed. That's your claim. And you're asking me if I would expect Earth to turn underneath a helicopter? No, but you would.
No.
And you're fundy muting me at the same point you did last time. It's the point that you get pummeled. Can I try again? You asked me. You're fundy muting me at the same point, Ed. Every time I get to this point, you're fundy muting me. It's because you're a coward and a bitch, and you're getting pummeled. So I'll try
you're
again.
not letting me reply.
Yeah, you just keep saying I'm strawmanning you at the exact same point that I point out that you're asking me if a helicopter would have Earth turn underneath, and I'm saying, no, I wouldn't expect to, but you would. It just doesn't happen. So you're trying to reverse the burden and say, would I expect it to happen? No, Earth doesn't turn under helicopters. But if it was spinning, it would, and that's precisely what you claim it should do. It's on screen for the audience. It just doesn't happen, Ed. Earth doesn't turn under helicopters, but your side claims it does. Yeah. So your side claims Earth turns under helicopters. It just doesn't happen, Ed. So don't reverse the burden of proof and ask me if I'd expect Earth to turn under helicopters. No, it doesn't. Nobody ever observes that. But your side claims it does.
Nope.
Yeah, it's on screen.
Oh, so...
Hold on, Chocolate, for the love of fuck. No, it's on screen. Your rhetoric from ThoughtCo makes it explicitly clear, as does Neil deGrasse Tyson. Not no. Yeah. Your Globe Earth has a second reference frame turning underneath helicopters. Now, that does not happen, Ed. So why are you asking me if I would expect it when it's supposed to be happening in your claim?
You're wasting time with him.
So, the helicopter that's hovering above your head, which conservation of momentum would it actually keep then? If it's standing still, Nathan?
Sorry, which conservation of momentum? It's claimed by your side that you, on the globe side, have Coriolis deflection. That would be Earth turning underneath it. So why are you asking me what's being conserved when, number one, I don't think Earth's supposed to turn underneath it. You do, and it's on screen for the audience, but now you're asking me about a totally different subject.
No, it's the same subject.
No, conservation of momentum is conservation of momentum. Coriolis effect is Coriolis effect. Coriolis effect is you turning underneath something, seeing it seem to drift. Conservation of momentum isn't.
You're wrong, Nathan.
So if the helicopter is not moving,
Sorry,
which momentum is
who's
it
saying I'm
conserving,
wrong?
Nathan?
Sorry, Ed, do you appreciate that Coriolis effect is an observational effect that you observe whilst spinning underneath something? Or do you think it's got something to do with the projectile conserving momentum, as you're asserting? Because Coriolis effect is absolutely observed from a spinning reference frame. It's got nothing to do with the projectile conserving momentum. You're wrong. That's not Coriolis effect.
I appreciate you don't know what you're talking about, as usual.
Yeah, I do. I've just detailed it. Conservation of angular or linear momentum is not you turning underneath something, observing it seem to do something, but not actually do it. Because you're observing it not actually doing something. That's Coriolis effect. So whether or not it conserves, retains, or otherwise momentum is irrelevant, because the effect is observed by you spinning underneath stuff. It's got sod all to do with the projectile conserving anything. Sorry, Ed, you think Earth turns underneath helicopters? Why are you denying that which is handed down to you by the priesthood?
If the helicopter is standing still, then what's actually moving then?
Nothing. Earth's not spinning. Because you claim Earth turns underneath it. That's part of your rhetoric. So nothing's spinning. Earth's not spinning. We're stationary. Because if a helicopter can hover, Earth's not turning underneath and you claim it is.
Right, so that's not what I asked.
I don't give a shit what you asked. Your claim is about me and my claim about conservation momentum. Number one, conservation momentum isn't Coriolis effect. It is claimed, in your example, that Earth should turn underneath the friggin' helicopter. That's what Coriolis drift is. It's on screen for my audience. That's your claim. Now, if Earth turns underneath helicopters, helicopters would land in a different country, Ed, and that doesn't happen. Now, we can go about this all day with you ham-handedly sidetracking your own rhetoric and trying to put it on me. But it's not going to work. You think Earth turns under helicopters, Ed, whether you like it or not.
If the helicopter is standing still, then
Earth's not turning underneath it, as is claimed by your rhetoric. It's on screen for my audience. The object is not actually moving. So like a hovering helicopter's not actually moving? Yeah, got it. Hovering helicopter. Object not actually moving. Got it. Moving off its course? Oh, right, so it seems to be moving. I wonder why. It only appears to be doing so because it's claimed, totally bullshit, that Earth's turning beneath it, Ed. So you, on the globe side, think Earth turns beneath helicopters that hover. Well, that'll bring a different country to a helicopter as it hovers. That doesn't happen, Ed. But that's what you believe.
So if the helicopter is standing still,
then Earth's not turning underneath it, as is claimed by your rhetoric.
So where can the helicopter deflect to if it's...
It's not deflecting, you dumb fuck. That would require Earth to turn underneath it. So you think it's going to deflect? That would be not actual deviation because we turn underneath it. No, helicopters can hover. We don't turn underneath them, Ed. Earth isn't turning.
That's our point, Ed.
And if the helicopter was moving, there would be deviation. But
if it was moving, but you've described this example with a hovering helicopter.
Standing still.
Yeah, your helicopter's hovering though, isn't it, Ed? That was your example.
Yeah.
So it's not got Earth moving underneath it then. So we've not got deflection then. So this invented deflection, it seems like Simon Dan, you what, now believe in, even though your example doesn't have any?
Oh, you muted Discord again, did you?
No.
No, you are wasting time, man. Come on,
yes, you did.
Fucking shit, it's boring.
No, Ed.
No. Listen, if the helicopter is not moving,
then Earth's not turning underneath it, as is claimed on this example on screen.
You're fun demuting me.
Yeah, if Earth isn't turning underneath, that's what you claim. So that's the end of your argument. You're debunking Earth turn claim with deflection. You're starting your statement with if Earth isn't turning underneath. Well, it's claimed that it does, Ed. It's claimed that it does.
Yeah, but you're not letting me finish. So...
Well, you're starting your assertion with a claim that debunks Earth turn, Ed. So I'm going to correct you with the end of your statement. If Earth isn't turning under the helicopter, well, it's claimed Earth does turn under the helicopter, Ed. So you're debunking your own claim. That's the end of the argument. So Earth doesn't turn underneath, as is claimed, to prove Earth turns. That's the end of your argument.
if you expect to see a deviation in movement...
I don't expect to see a deviation! You do, Dumbo! Hello? You and your reference frames have been ruined. Not mine, I don't have any. I don't expect to see deviation, but you do! Just doesn't happen, Ed. We don't see the helicopter drifting away at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator. It's your deviation and deflection you'd expect to see. I wouldn't expect to see it, and we don't see it. We don't see deflection. Earth isn't turning underneath, Ed. Earth isn't turning.
How can something be deviating if it's standing still?
It's not deviating if it's hovering, Ed. Hello? How can it be deviating? It isn't. Earth isn't turning underneath, Ed. Earth isn't turning.
How can there be deviation
There
in
isn't.
movement that's not there?
There isn't. Well, because Earth isn't spinning, Ed. How can there be deviation that isn't there? Well, if it isn't there, it isn't there. There's supposed to be 15 degrees of it, though, Ed. That was what you claim. It's on screen. It's what Globers think happen. You think Earth turns under helicopters? You batshit crazy idiots?
The helicopter is not moving, so it can't...
So Earth's not turning underneath it, then? As is claimed it does by you fundies on the globe side.
The helicopter is turning with the Earth.
So it's not got deflection at 15 degrees an hour then? So Earth's not turning underneath then, Ed? You're just begging the question that it's all travelling together in violation of gas law. Gas isn't bonded to anything, and that doesn't give you 15 degrees an hour drift. That's what's supposed to happen. Earth's supposed to turn under the helicopter, Ed. That's what you claim. Of course, if you were actually in line with your fundamentalist religious zealotry, as is explained to the audience on screen, then you'd be asserting Earth turns under the helicopter. I've pointed out that that would mean Earth turned under helicopters, and you're now asserting the contrapositive, which is to say that it travels together. So no drift then, Ed. No 15 degrees an hour to prove Earth spins then. So no drift then, Ed. No 15 degrees an hour. So Bob was wrong. No drift.
Together with clouds.
No drift then, Ed.
It is slowly becoming flat earther.
Ed, if it travels together as one reference frame, there's no drift. It's detailed on screen, as per the heliocentric priesthood, that you do have drift. So you're debunking the claim there's 15 degrees of drift, Ed. Bit like Simon Dan. Looks like Ed's run out of steam. Bye, Ed. Thanks for debunking Earth Turn.
Yeah, I think Ed's going flat Earth because it seems like all the globe claims, according to him, are strawmen.
And he brings it up.
And he brings it up. It's great. Keep going, Ed. Anybody else want to debunk or spin?
Yeah, massive shout out to Simon Dan. I'm a massive fan. He's given us this great little sentence that lets us piss in the face of anybody who claims Earth turn that requires reference frames. And we just point out that you and your reference frames are ruined and watch people like Ed debunk the claim we have drift at 15 degrees an hour. Thanks, Ed, for proving we have no drift.
I think Ed short-circuited.
Yeah, he didn't know how to cope.
So let's get it right. He couldn't show smoke going down, go boom, boom.
Sorry, not flat. You're
Come on,
breaking
he's
up, my
coming
friend.
to troll only, nothing else, or every fucking day. He's troll and nothing else.
Well, no, I was quite pleased with Ed's contribution today. He
Expect
debunked having separate reference frames.
Deviation in something that's not
Uh-oh.
moving.
Hello,
Again,
troll.
how can you
Hello,
expect
troll.
You keep
deviation in
asking
something
us
that's
what
not
we
moving?
expect. This is your claim, Ed. You're literally in here debunking your own claim. You're asking us, do we expect deviation? No, because the Earth's not spinning. But you think it is.
Yeah, you expect deviation, you Dumbo. What aren't you getting? It's you that expects drift, not us. It's on screen for the audience, by the way. You're supposed to expect to see Earth turn underneath that helicopter that you say is hovering, Ed. That debunks your own claim that we have drift.
Wrong. That's a straw man.
It's on screen for the audience. ThoughtCo. The object is not actually moving off its course. So hovering. Got it. Hovering. Yeah. It only appears to be doing so because Earth is turning underneath it. So, according to the citation we've had from your side and published on the internet at ThoughtCo, it says Earth turns underneath the helicopter head. Makes it explicitly clear you're supposed to have it. It's well known under a different terminology. It's known as 15 degrees an hour drift. People often assert that Bob has proven it. That's Earth turning underneath stuff, Ed, as is detailed here. And you're saying what? Because Earth isn't turning under a helicopter, that's not what you claim. No, it just debunks your claim that we have drift, mate. We're not turning underneath helicopters.
Well, it doesn't, because how can you expect to see any drift in an...
I don't expect drift, Dumbo! You do. We just don't have any. So don't expect me how I would expect to see drift. I don't expect to see drift. You do, and we don't have any. So how would you expect to see drift at 15 degrees an hour when clearly helicopters can hover, Ed?
Right, so if they hover...
So how would you expect to see drift, given that you think there is drift and there isn't? How would you expect to see it? There isn't any.
You're funny muting me again. No, Nathan, you're funny muting me again. Let me finish the question and then answer the question.
No, it's a question to you. You asked me if I would expect to see something, and I pointed out that I wouldn't, because it's not my claim. So I'm throwing it back at you, given your question is only relevant to you. Wouldn't you expect to see Earth turning underneath a helicopter head at 15 degrees an hour, given you've asked me this question, which is totally unreasonable, it's not my claim. So now I'm throwing it back at you, not a new question from you.
You're funny muting.
Is that all you got? You're funny muting me? No, Ed. You've asked us if I'd expect to see drift. It's not my claim, it's yours. So I'm throwing the question back at you, and you don't seem to like your own question being asked to you.
Muting me, you're muting Discord. That's
so
all
you're saying
you can
muting
do.
me, muting me, muting me, so you don't have to listen. Is he, guys in Discord? Is he saying?
Nobody heard
is he
that
saying muting me, muting me, muting me over again, so he doesn't have to listen? Coward. I'll try again, Ed. Let's see if you fundy muting me. See if you say fundy muting me over me while I try and detail it again.
I'm actually still
yeah, there he goes.
my
Fundy muting
question.
me, you bastard liar.
I'm still
so
asking
you're
my
fundy
question,
muting
actually.
me, aren't you, scumbag
No.
liar? Scumbag liar?
I'm still asking,
fundy muting me.
I'm trying to ask my question for
No,
15
you've already asked your question. You asked me if I'd expect to see drift, and it's not my claim. Not reasonable to expect me to answer something I don't claim. But given that you do claim Earth should turn under a helicopter, I'm asking you if you'd reasonably expect drift, given it's your claim.
So you muted Discord, so...
Oh, so it's muting me, muting me, so you don't have to listen to me? You think your rumpus trick's gonna work? No, scumbag. No. You claim drift, and you're asking me if I'd reasonably expect to see it. And I'm saying, no, it's your claim. Now I'm asking you the same question, and you're saying, oh, it's unreasonable. I need to ask a new scattergun question. It's not reasonable that I'm asked my question. That's not reasonable to put to my opponent, because it's not his claim. It's not my claim, it's yours, Ed. So wouldn't it be reasonable that you saw drift under the helicopter, Ed, given it's your claim?
If the helicopter is not moving, how can it deviate?
It can't. So Earth's not spinning underneath then. Well done! So you've debunked Earth turn, Ed. So we wouldn't expect it because it's not there. That's why we wouldn't expect it, as you start fundy muting me, right?
No.
Fundy muting me, right, Ed? Scumbag? Yeah, I've got a gate on me, Ed. When I'm talking and I'm in the middle of my flow, you won't be talking through me. It's not me fundy muting you. It's you talking through me while I talk and then objecting that the only thing that the audience gets to hear is constant interruption from you. And you object to that gate, don't you? Yeah, that's why I talk non-stop. To try and keep the gate closed as assholes fundy mute me. But I've got a little indicator light that tells me, fundy mute alert, fundy mute alert. Yeah, Ed. You're not going to get through the gate when I'm pummeling you, but claiming that I'm muting you when you're trying to talk through me, and I've opened the gate so you can hear as the audience. I've opened the gate so you can hear what he's doing. The gate's now open so that everyone can hear what's actually happening. I'm in the middle of talking. He starts talking through me and crying foul. Crying foul. So he's now fundy muting me. And he's going to cry foul at the end of it. What he's actually doing is refusing to listen to me. It's your reference frames, Ed. He's not going to listen. He's not going to listen. Coward. Coward with a fundy mute button. That's all they've got. Cowards. So he's not going to listen to me point out that the question he's asked me isn't anything I claim. It's his claim. Therefore, it's only reasonable that I put the question back to him. But he won't have it. He knows that if I put the question to him about Earth turning under a helicopter, precisely as is claimed by Globe Earth, it'll annihilate his argument because Earth doesn't turn under anything.
No, actually the only thing you've annihilated is your understanding of Coriolis.
I understand Coriolis, it's on screen. For my audience. You and your fundy belief is Earth turns underneath that helicopter, and again he's fundy muting me. Fortunately, I've got a gate to stop that shit from actually interfering with what I say. Yeah, you've got a claim of drift. You claim Earth turns underneath the helicopter, and when I point that out, and the fact that it doesn't happen, you say that's not what's supposed to happen. It's on screen, dipshit!
Mute Discord, you fundy mute me.
See, he's talked through me non-stop so he didn't have to listen. While the gate was closed, he started talking through me so he didn't have to listen. What a coward!
So you muted
Ed, your
Discord
tactics
again?
are showing.
Well, I'm in Discord and I can tell you Eddie's just not listening.
So Ed's just fundy muting me
Right,
constantly.
because he won't answer my question. He won't let me ask my question.
Can you
even.
stop
He's not
talking?
listening.
No, you're just talking while he's talking. That's the problem.
No, I'm actually trying to ask a question.
Yeah, so we've established what's happening. Like I detailed, I start talking, and while I'm in mid-flow and there's going to be a devastating question attached, Ed will start interrupting. And as soon as he's finished and I open the gate back up, Ed will claim I've muted him. So while I'm doing it, he's demonstrating it. He's now talking through me. So Ed's trying to take the point further and further away from the fact that his claim on the globe side is Earth turns underneath a helicopter. That's what's supposed to happen and it doesn't.
Wrong.
It's on screen for the audience. The object is not actually moving off its course. That would be a helicopter hovering, not moving off its course. It only appears to be doing so. That would be it seeming to move when it isn't, because it's claimed, according to ThoughtCo, Earth turns underneath. I point that out. Response from the fundy is no, wrong. The rhetoric of a globe Earth that spins, which would have Earth turning under a helicopter, is wrong. No, it isn't, Ed. It just doesn't happen. Not wrong. Definitely your claim, as you fundy mute me continually. It's actually your claim. But it just doesn't happen, Ed. Earth isn't turning under a helicopter.
No, he's not answering anything.
He answered your question about helicopter. He answered that.
No,
I heard.
he didn't.
I hear it. He said
He did, Ed.
helipad can.
Ed, your
He-
lame
Did you
tactics are
hear that?
showing
Did
heavily,
you hear
brother.
that?
It's
He said-
becoming pathetic.
Yeah.
Are you
Start
being
talking.
fed by Rumpus?
Start talking through the middle of a sentence of your opponent, and because it's gated, I can't hear him doing that. I can just see the light flashing, which tells me, guy not listening anymore. And the moment the gate opens back up again, what's he going to say? You've muted me. Yeah, I've stopped, by way of design of my show, your constant interruption stopping the end of my sentence being heard, which is the devastating point.
Oh, are you gonna funny mute me again?
See? So that's what's just happened. His light flashes continually, so he's not listening to me pointing it out again. The end of the argument. And what's it going to be met with when the gate opens back up again? You're fundy muting me, you're fundy muting me, you're fundy muting me. No, I am annihilating the claim that Earth spins. That comes with Earth turning under helicopters. That's your claim.
So is he, to be fair.
Are you finally done ranting?
You haven't listened to me. Repeat back my last sentence.
Oh, I listened. So what's the reason that...
So you're asking me a question, so you're going to refuse point blank to repeat back my last sentence because you didn't listen to it. You light flashed the entire time, you fundy muted me the entirety of my statement, you didn't listen to my claim that basically affirms what you're supposed to be claiming but aren't. Every time I point it out with the definition on screen, you say no. No, that's not my claim. Yeah, it is.
A coward.
Trolling.
It's just trolling,
Can you
he's just
shut
not
up?
listening anymore. He knows he's annihilated, so he's not going to listen to a word I say
Nathan,
anymore.
are you there?
You're not going to listen to me, are you, Ed? You know that this is a pummeling. So it's
Are
better
you
to
there,
just talk
Nathan?
through me. Talk through me constantly, right? Rather than listen.
That's exactly what you're doing to me.
No, that's
Nice
you projecting.
No. Sorry, Nathan. I'm in Discord and this Ed guy just doesn't shut the hell up.
Yeah, he's talking through me every time I try and make a point so he doesn't have to listen to it.
So
That's their tactic. So if I try and point out that Ed's rhetoric is that Earth turns underneath a helicopter that's hovering, then what's he going to say to that? No, it isn't.
He's debunking
So
himself.
in the globe model, which momentum does the helicopter conserve in the globe model if it's just hovering above you in the globe model?
It's not supposed to just hover above you, Ed. Your rhetoric has Earth turning underneath it. I've said that about 16 times. Amongst a load of fundy muting when I point out that no, Ed, it can't just hover Because in your model, Earth's supposed to turn underneath to cause deflection observable from the ground. That's your rhetoric. So you're asking me about what momentum it would conserve? No, this is an observational effect. It's us looking at the helicopter and watching it seem to drift away. Now, obviously, that doesn't happen, Ed. Helicopters can hover. They don't drift away from you at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, although that's what your claim is. That's what Earth as a sphere claims in the heliocentric model. Coriolis deviation, observable from the ground as things seem to drift away as you turn underneath them. That would be a helicopter with Earth turning underneath it, Ed. And it doesn't happen, Ed. Earth doesn't turn under helicopters, Ed. They can hover. Debunking the claim Earth spins.
Are you done?
What, debunking Earth spinning? I know, I can do this all day. Yeah, Earth doesn't turn under helicopters, Ed. You asked me about what deflection I would see, and I don't claim any deflection. That's your claim. I mean, we've had a lot of fun demuting while I point out that I don't claim drift, even though I'm being asked how much I would be expected to see. And when I ask you how much you would expect to see, given that I already know it's 15 degrees an hour and a hovering helicopter ain't showing that, I know that that's going to be met with a lot of fun demuting while I point that out and ask you your question. How much deflection would you expect to see in a hovering helicopter, open brackets, 15 degrees drift, that isn't being observed?
According to the globe model and Coriolis,
Can you send helicopter?
Because there's no momentum.
Can you send helicopter in a model?
No, according to Coriolis, it conserves momentum. Coriolis effect is you observing things seem to drift, Ed. It's obvious that you don't understand what Coriolis effect while you're claiming I don't. No, Coriolis is an observational effect. It's got nothing to do with anything in the inertial reference frame. Conserving anything. Merely an observation from the ground of something not doing something. Not conserving, not retaining. Doing something it isn't. Just seeming to because you're turning underneath. So you watch a helicopter from the ground and it seems to drift away at 1,000 miles an hour. That's what's claimed to happen on a globe Earth that spins, Ed. It's claimed you watch helicopters seem to drift away while they hover. Of course, that doesn't happen, Ed. Debunking the claim that we have Earth that spins.
Can helicopter hover in a model? Can helicopter hover in a model?
No.
Can helicopter hover
Who's this
in
guy
a
in
model?
Discord?
Can helicopter hover in a model, man?
Sasha. Two-way conversation, my friend.
Nathan, can you hear me?
No, because Sasha's talking through you.
Right, so in the globe model, according to Coriolis, if the helicopter is hovering above your head, in the globe model, why is there no deviation then in the globe model, Nathan?
There is deviation in the globe model. You don't understand your own model. You have 15 degrees of deviation as Earth turns underneath it, Ed. You don't understand your own model. You're stupid.
Right, so this is the same as...
So why are you asking me what deviation wouldn't be expected to be seen when there is expected to be Earth turning underneath a helicopter, but it doesn't, Ed? So I'm going to ask you a question. Given I've just answered you, I'd like you to answer me a question. Given that it's expected Earth would turn under a helicopter at 15 degrees an hour as a second reference frame, why doesn't that happen, Ed? Given that that's what you'd expect to see on a turning Earth. Why doesn't it happen? Why don't we see drift, Ed?
Gravity.
You didn't answer my question. Because
I did answer your question. Scumbag, I did answer your question. I did answer your question. You asked me in the globe model how much drift wouldn't we expect to see, and I said you would. I did answer you. Now I'd like you to answer my question.
I'm trying to explain something. You're funny muting
I
me again.
answered your
No,
question.
Nathan,
I'm not muting you. I am not muting you, but you're ignoring any rebuttal. You're fundy muting me now, Ed.
Yes,
you're fundy muting me. Ed,
Ed,
you're a cunt. What a bastard. What a total bastard. Total bastard.
No, Nathan, I was trying to explain something and you cut me off.
No, you went to ask a new question. I asked you a question and you ignored it.
No, I was trying to explain something and you...
No, you weren't. You were asking me a new question. I answered your question. I'll summarise it. See if you fundy mute me the whole time.
No, you didn't answer.
So you're now going to fundy mute this entire summary. You're going to fundy mute the entire summary, Ed?
Actually, you're fundy
Yeah, you're going to fundy mute this entire summary.
You're fundy muting me.
No, I'm trying to summarise the position that's just occurred. And you won't shut up anymore. You just will not shut up.
Answer my question.
No, I'd like you to shut up, Ed. Let's see if you'll tolerate me summarising the situation. You asked me how much drift... No, you're fundy muting me. You won't let me summarise it. What a wanker.
You're fundy
scared?
muting me.
You scared, wanker? You scared? I'll try again.
For a minute.
No, Nathan, you are
he's fundy muting me constantly. What a scumbag. So I'll try and
No,
summarize it.
I was trying to explain something.
Every time I say I'll try and summarize it, Ed Fundy mutes me.
You're projecting.
What a scumbag. So you won't tolerate a decent debate, Ed. You've got to Fundy mute every word of my summary. I'll try again.
No, you're
Sixth
just
time.
projecting. I was trying to explain something.
What a scumbag. Sixth attempt. Scared of his dying globe religion being pummeled. Sixth attempt.
Projection.
Seventh. So you're going to constantly Fundy mute this, Ed? Seventh attempt. So, Ed asked me how much drift I would expect not to see in the globe model. I replied to his question, in the globe model, you would expect to see 15 degrees an hour of drift as Earth rotates underneath as a second reference frame. That was me answering Ed's specific question. I've answered his question. Now I'd like Ed to answer a question of mine, but instead we've had about 5 or 6 minutes of Fundy muting. So my question to you, Ed, given that we've established, as per your question to me about the heliocentric model you don't understand, that we would expect to see 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath the helicopter, why don't we see 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath the helicopter when Earth isn't turning under the helicopter and we're not seeing drift, as you on the globe side say we should?
No, that's a straw man. So please refine your question.
What? Explain how it's a straw man.
You can ask something else.
Fuck you! Just because my nuts are in your mouth, you don't get to change the subject. Yeah? You have a claim that Earth turns underneath that helicopter. I'm asking, why isn't it drifting? And you're saying ask a different question? You can suck my nuts. Why isn't it drifting, coward?
Oh, thanks.
Coward! That's my question. I answered his question, ladies and gentlemen. Why wouldn't we see drift in the globe model? We would. 15 degrees an hour. So, in rebuttal, why aren't we seeing that 15 degrees an hour drift, Ed? Ask another question. No, mate, I'll tell you. We're not seeing that drift because there isn't any. Even though you'd expect there to be 15 degrees an hour as we turn underneath that helicopter, we're not. There is no 15 degrees an hour drift, you Fundy muting scumbag.
I'm scared of my answers.
Fundy muting scumbag. I'm summarising the demolition. And he's Fundy muting every fucking word of it. That's all these cowards have got these days. I summarise the position he asks me about the globe model, a position I don't hold. I summarise the position succinctly. You'd expect 15 degrees an hour drift, as is absolutely asserted to be the case. I ask him why we don't see it, and it's constant Fundy muting. And a declaration that I should ask a different question? No. Earth does not turn underneath the helicopter, but you Fundies think it does. It just doesn't.
Right, so why would I...
So a question for me. Earth doesn't turn under the helicopter, Ed. But you think it does at 15 degrees an hour. So non-stop Fundy muting in a total ignorance after a... Right. Yeah, that's right, Ed. Earth should turn under that helicopter and it doesn't.
You are
getting pummeled. Appeal to mute button fallacy. Yeah, you're getting raped and you don't have to like it. Earth, according to you, turns under helicopters. Utter nonsense. And I'm pummeling it. Appeal to the mute button all you like while I teabag your stupid claim that Earth turns under helicopters. It doesn't.
Are you done?
Done pummeling your argument? Yeah, I'll do it all day, mate. You Fundies on the globe side think Earth turns underneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour. That means Earth turns underneath helicopters at 15 degrees an hour. No, they can hover. So no, Earth isn't turning underneath hovering helicopters. And this Fundy fuckwit will ask me to justify how it doesn't happen in the globe model when it's claimed it does. You Fundies have got 15 degrees an hour of Earth turning underneath helicopters. And it doesn't happen.
Well, Nathan, I was now in Discord. Can't hear a thing you say because he just talks and talks and talks and just doesn't.
Yeah,
you're out of questions, Ed.
Yeah. So what he's doing, basically, Flatzoid, is saying if I listen to the succinct summary of the position I'm relinquishing with Earth turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour, I might have to address it.
The problem is he just doesn't want to address it.
Maybe he's here to debunk it. like he's been doing the whole time.
Yeah, he's debunking it. When you talk about a hovering helicopter, Ed, you're debunking the claim that Earth turns underneath. That's going to require a lot of fundy muting and a lot of an attempt from your side to keep in control by asking me questions the whole time. Yeah, I answer a question about how the globe model works, and does he answer a question in return? No. He asks me to answer him, or ask him a different question to answer. Right, Ed? Why isn't the helicopter drifting at 15 degrees an hour, Ed? Why isn't the helicopter drifting at 15 degrees an hour as it's claimed to do on a globe Earth that spins, Ed?
Yeah, I need clarification. Does the helicopter in your example have momentum?
It's claimed Earth turns underneath it, Ed. And if it's hovering, Earth isn't turning underneath it, Ed. So I'm asking you, why isn't Earth turning underneath it, Ed, given that's what your claim is supposed to have happen?
Answer it both ways.
And I told you, I need clarification. Does the helicopter have momentum, yes or no?
When it's hovering, it's relatively stationary in its position. It's hovering. So momentum, no, we're going to say it's hovering, Ed. In a theoretical example, with Earth claimed to turn underneath it, Ed. And I'm asking you for the third time with you actually listening and not fundy muting me, why isn't Earth turning underneath the helicopter at 15 degrees an hour, Ed? Need clarity?
The helicopter has no momentum.
You keep asking me about the momentum of the helicopter, and Coriolis deflection is an observation from the ground of you seeing it seem to drift away. So it's got nothing to do with the momentum. Coriolis effect is you observing it seem to drift away, and I'm asking why it isn't seeming to drift away at 15 degrees an hour. Fifth time with you listening.
Yeah, you're not being clear in your question.
Very clear. Why isn't the helicopter drifting away at 15 degrees an hour? Couldn't be more clear. It's supposed to on a globe Earth that spins. That's the claim.
Yeah, and I told you 4 times I need clarification. Does the helicopter have momentum? Yes or no?
It's hovering. Relatively speaking, it's stationary in its position. It's hovering, Ed. It's your example of a hovering helicopter. Not flying. Not moving off its course. Hovering. So no, Ed. In your example of a hovering helicopter, no, Ed. It's just hovering. But it's claimed, by your side, that Earth turns underneath that helicopter that's hovering at 15 degrees an hour, Ed. For us to see it seem to deviate from the ground, that would be it seeming to drift away at 15 degrees an hour, Ed. And I'm asking you, the one who's got this claim, that we turn underneath helicopters, that's 15 degrees an hour deviation, why that isn't happening. Because that's the thing that's supposed to prove we spin. Why isn't that happening, Ed?
To simplify that,
you're talking about deviation. You're talking about deviation again, and how can there be deviation when there's zero movement?
So Earth isn't turning then. So if there isn't deviation, Earth isn't turning underneath as is claimed then. So Earth isn't turning underneath as is claimed. So we don't have a proof of Earth spin in the form of Coriolis deflection then, because Earth isn't spinning and there isn't any deflection then, Ed.
There is. The helicopter is moving with the Earth.
So that's not deflecting and deviating at 15 degrees an hour then. So Coriolis deviation is us observing it seem to drift away, Ed. It seems you don't understand what Coriolis effect is. It's you observing things seem to drift away from you, Ed. So you're debunking the claim that Earth spins underneath to give you a 15 degrees an hour deflection. That would be the helicopter drifting away from you. You're debunking the 15 degrees an hour drift then, Ed.
What's the definition of deviation?
Why are you asking me a question? You're debunking drift at 15 degrees an hour then. It's supposed to drift away from you at 15 degrees an hour, Ed, and you're debunking that. Not a question for me. Shit your pants acknowledgement that you've debunked your own claim.
So you don't know what deviation means?
Yeah, it means you observe it seem to drift away at 15 degrees an hour, and I keep asking you why that's not happening. And you've told me that it's moving with the ground. Well, that's not deflecting then. That still leaves the same question unanswered. Why isn't it deflecting, Ed? It's supposed to have the Earth move underneath it, Ed.
I'm not part of the definition. Yeah, so you're fun.
Do you hear that? Do you hear that quiver in his voice? Now he started listening. He knows he's fucked.
Again.
You know you're fucked now, don't you, Ed?
Are you that scared?
No, but you are. I can hear it in your voice. Yeah, that's what I'm pointing out. You sound terrified because we're at the point where you'll either start fundy muting me again. Oh, shocker, outside. He is going to start fundy muting me again because you're terrified. I'm asking you why we don't see the helicopter drift and it's fundy mute at the same point. You know you're fucked.
Nobody is scared of you.
You are.
No, because what's the definition of deviation, Nathan?
That'd be
You never
one
told
reference
me.
frame. Oh, I'm not going to get a chance to answer. Fundy mute the answer, maybe? Yeah, you're terrified of me, Ed. I know you are.
He's letting you answer. Just answer the question.
Who said that? Sorry?
Next, just answer the question.
Just answer the question.
Nakes, you can suck my balls. I run this show. So, Ed. Ed.
Yes, what's the answer, Nathan?
The answer is Earth's supposed to deviate. You're supposed to have an observation from the ground of the helicopter drifting away from you. That would be it drifting away from you, and it isn't, Ed. And I keep asking you why it isn't, and you're not answering me. Are you scared of my question?
You refuse to clarify what's the definition of deviation?
I haven't. I've clarified it. It would be you observing it drift away from you. Are you thick? I've clarified it 3 times. You're dense. Oh, apologies. He's just fucking stupid. I've clarified it for you, Ed. It's you observing it seem to drift away, and I'm asking why it isn't drifting away as Earth turns underneath, for us to observe it deflect. Not actual deflection, just seem to drift away as it hovers. That isn't happening, though, Ed. It's supposed to happen on a globe Earth that spins, and I'm asking you, the claimant, with Earth turning underneath 15 degrees drift, unless you want to debunk it again, why that isn't happening, Ed.
You use drift in your definition of deviation. What does drift mean?
It's not actual deflection. It's seeming to move when it isn't. That's the drift. Drifting away from you, Ed. And I keep asking, why isn't the helicopter drifting away at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator? That's what's supposed to happen and isn't. But you keep obfuscating and deflecting the question onto a different question, asking me to detail what drift means, even though I've clarified it 4 times. That would be the helicopter going up and hovering, but seeming to move away from you. That would be drifting away, Ed. And I'm asking, why isn't Earth turning underneath the helicopter for it to appear to drift away? Why doesn't that happen? Because that's the thing that's claimed to prove Earth spins, and yet it doesn't happen, Ed. You're yet to answer this question. Maybe ask me to define what drift means again. I'll clarify it before you open your gob. It means it's supposed to be moving away. It isn't. Why isn't it? It's supposed to on a globe Earth that spins. 6th repetition with you listening.
No, drift does not mean it moves away from you.
You're a fuckwit. That's precisely what it moves. Yeah? Moves away as you observe it from a turning reference frame underneath it. That's drift. Not actual deflection. Meaning it seems to do something that it isn't. Means it seems to be moving away at 1,000 miles an hour on a claim to be spinning Earth. Of course, we don't observe that effect. That is drift. You're just stupid. You don't know what drift is. Means it's drifting away. You're a moron.
Drift does not mean moving away, otherwise it would just be moving.
Yeah, deflecting.
So you have to be...
Yeah, you can use deflecting. Whatever word you like, Ed. The semantics of this word doesn't change the fact that Earth's supposed to be turning underneath helicopters and isn't. Why isn't Earth turning under helicopters?
How can you be deflecting if you have no...
Yeah, you observing it drift away. That's deflecting. Seems to be curving away from you. Not actually, it's you turning underneath. Yeah, we're supposed to be turning underneath helicopters, Ed. Why aren't we?
So how can there be deflection if the object is standing still?
There can't be. That means Earth isn't turning. So there is no deflection then, Ed. How can there be no deflection if Earth's claimed to turn underneath? Well, there can't be, because Earth isn't turning underneath, Ed. So that debunks Earth turn. Kudos. There isn't any deflection. There's supposed to be 15 degrees of it, though. Why are you asking me about deflection that isn't there when your side claims there's 15 degrees of it, Ed?
You're not answering my question.
Yeah, I am. You're asking me why there wouldn't be drift if you expected there to be some. And I'm saying because there isn't any, even though you expect there to be. You expect Earth to turn underneath and there isn't any. And I'm asking you why that isn't there when you expect to see it. And you're asking me why I wouldn't expect to see it when it isn't there.
No, that's not what I'm asking you. So if you would stop funny muting me, I can actually ask the question.
But your only appeal now?
The question is, how can there be... No. Are you really funny muting that soon already? Come on.
Yeah.
Just listen.
It was a two-way conversation till that moment.
Yeah, just listen. So how can there be deflection of movement in an object that's not moving?
Well, how can there be? Well, if you were
Oh
turning
my
underneath
God.
it. If you were turning underneath it, there would be deflection, Ed. So if Earth was turning underneath a helicopter, then there would be deflection. But are you saying there isn't any deflection? Oh, well, then Earth isn't turning underneath it, Ed.
Thank you.
What does deflection mean?
It means it drifts away from you or appears to do something that it isn't as you turn underneath it. So we're back to this, Ed. So what deflection would we expect, or how would we expect to see it? Well, I've answered you, Ed. We'd expect to see it if Earth was turning underneath the helicopter, but we don't see it. So Earth isn't turning under the helicopter as we would expect if Earth was turning, Ed.
This is the same problem you have with the word apparent horizon.
No, this is not my problem. This is your problem, because you've got an Earth that turns, and it's supposed to turn under helicopters. That's your problem. You're yet to answer why that doesn't happen. So I'm going to ask again. We're not going to move on to apparent horizons and a claim that this is my problem. I'm going to ask you again. Why isn't Earth turning underneath to cause the deflection at 15 degrees an hour? Why doesn't Earth turn under helicopters, Ed? You haven't answered. You're going to tell me the question's malformed again? Why isn't Earth turning under the helicopter, Ed?
It sure is.
So we do see Earth turn... So helicopters drift away at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator, do they, Ed? No, they don't.
If you would actually leave Discord off mute, you would hear my complete answer. So again,
You haven't
how
been
can there
muted
be
the whole time, Ed.
deviation in
Stop.
movement
Just stop.
if there's no
You haven't
movement?
been muted. You've been talking
You're
the
not
whole
listening,
time, Ed.
and you misunderstand the word deviation. Just like apparent horizon is an apparent of something, and deviation of movement can only happen if there's movement. So if the helicopter hovers above you, so if the helicopter hovers above you, where's the movement for the deviation?
Yeah, so there isn't any then.
Dumbass.
So there isn't any. So Earth isn't moving, Ed. So if it's not deflecting, there isn't any movement. Is that your point?
I didn't ask you about Earth. I asked about the helicopter. You're dodging the question.
No, I'm not. You asked me how we'd induce deflection. Guys in G+, for the love of Christ. You asked me where you'd achieve deflection. Well, if you were turning underneath it, I could achieve it with a roundabout. If the helicopter's below a roundabout, hovering above it, I can see it seem to drift as I turn underneath it. Looks like it's coming towards me, and then it looks like it's going away. Well, that's not actual deflection as I turn underneath. That's drift. Well, it's claimed Earth does that. It claims, you claim, that Earth turns under a helicopter. And I keep asking you why Earth isn't turning under helicopters, given that that's what drift is, you turning underneath. So, why aren't we observing the helicopter seem to drift away as we turn underneath it? That's how you have Coriolis Effect. That's your claim. Why aren't we observing that? Keep dodging the question, coward. Why isn't Earth turning under the helicopter, Ed? Why isn't the Earth turning under the helicopter as it is claimed to, Ed? Just me. He's flashing, but I can't hear anything.
Reference frames ruined.
Hold on, Alwyn. Can anyone else in Discord hear Ed? Because I can't hear him.
Yeah, it's trash. I can hear him.
I think he's probably talking with
Okay,
someone
I'll
on
just
Discord.
refresh Discord. Just one sec. Can you hear me, Ed?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Again?
Okay, G+. Keep a lid on it just for a bit. Why isn't Earth turning under the helicopter as it's claimed to, Ed, to give us 15 degrees drift?
That's not a specific claim. So listen to my question.
Yeah,
if the helicopter is not moving, how can there be deviation in the movement of the helicopter that's not moving?
The deviation is observed from the ground. I'm going to have to
This guy's
tell
a special
G+
stupid.
every single time I try and answer. Whoever is doing that in G+, please stop. Ed, for there to be drift, Earth's supposed to turn underneath the helicopter. And it isn't.
That's not what I asked, Nathan. You're focusing on Earth again. I asked about the helicopter.
For there to be drift, you've got to be turning underneath it. That's how you achieve it. I explained it with an example with a roundabout. You haven't accepted it, you haven't acknowledged it, you've said that I'm not explaining it. Yeah, I am. For me to observe that helicopter not actually drift, it would be me on a roundabout underneath it spinning around, looking up at it, and going, wow, it looks like it's twirling around. It isn't, it's me turning underneath it. That's Coriolis deflection, Coriolis drift, and not actual deflection observed as you turn underneath stuff. Well, for us to have that on Earth, we're supposed to turn underneath the helicopter head. And I keep asking you over and over, why isn't that happening? And you seem to ask me about how we wouldn't achieve this drift over and over again as a rebuttal. It's not a rebuttal, asking me how we wouldn't achieve the effect you're supposed to have on a globe Earth that spins. We're supposed to have it according to your side. We're supposed to have Earth turning underneath that helicopter head, and I keep asking you why it isn't, and you're not answering me. Why isn't Earth turning under the helicopter head?
I told you several times that's a straw man. You have to answer my question, why there can be deviation in the movement of an object that's not moving. You have to answer that.
Because you
show your understanding of Coriolis.
I have. You have it appearing to deviate.
No,
because
you haven't.
And you're just going to talk through me. You have it appearing to deviate because you turn underneath it. That's Coriolis deflection. I've explained that, 5, 6 times? That's how you achieve something that's not actually moving, seeming to move. So for the helicopter to seem to move from an Earth that spins, you need to be observing it from an Earth that spins underneath the helicopter. And I'm asking you for God knows how many times, why is that not happening? Why aren't we turning underneath the helicopter to observe the same effect I could induce by turning underneath it on a roundabout? We're supposed to be turning underneath the helicopter at 15 degrees an hour, and I'm asking you why we don't observe that. And you're still yet to answer.
Because the claim that we should be turning underneath it when the helicopter is standing still above us is a straw man.
No, that's your claim. I'm going to put it up for the audience again as it's been taken down. So for the audience, the object is not actually moving off its course. It only appears to be doing so because the Earth is turning beneath it. That is not a straw man. You are a shit. That is your claim. That you're now claiming is a straw man. What, because I annihilate it by pointing out that Earth doesn't turn under the helicopter, as is precisely claimed by your side? You're going to call that claim that I'm detailing a straw man? You piece of shit. No, it is your claim.
You said something.
Right, why isn't Earth turning underneath the helicopter?
No, let me answer. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you not answering me. 12 times or something I've asked you why Earth isn't turning underneath the helicopter.
No, stop funny muting me, let me explain. You said something very important just now, that the object does appear to go off its course. So, if the helicopter is hovering above your head, which course does it have, dumbass?
It doesn't. It's hovering, according to your example. So the course that it has is stationary.
And then why would you expect to see Coriolis, you fucking idiot?
Eat that mic. Share your pain.
You're so dumb.
Share your pain.
You're so stupid.
Share it. Cry for me, bitch.
Yeah, so according to the citation that the claimant, globe believer, has, is that Earth turns beneath stuff. That's what gives you the effect. So it's not a straw man, you cackling coward. That's your claim that you've said is a straw man.
You're so dumb.
Is that your rebuttal? You're so dumb. No, that's your claim. It's supposed to be turning underneath the helicopter, Earth, Ed, and it isn't.
The object only appears to deviate off its course.
That would be if you... So you're saying we do turn under the helicopter? So helicopters do appear to drift away at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator? No, they don't, Ed. And I keep continually asserting that and telling you that we're not seeing hovering helicopters drift away and appear to go off course. They can hover, and we can watch them hover. They're not moving off course, and I'm asking why they're not, given that you've now conceded that's what they're supposed to do, Ed? They're supposed to drift away, and they're not.
If they're hovering... No, Nathan. If they're hovering above you, what's the course?
It's hovering. There's no course. It's stationary in air. It's in relatively stationary position. and not moving at all. But from the ground, it is claimed that it will drift away from us because we're turning underneath. But we're not seeing it drift away. We just watch helicopters hover and drones hover. Earth isn't turning underneath these things, Ed, although you claim that that's precisely what should happen. You've just explained that we're supposed to see deviation. Well, yeah, helicopters should drift away and they don't, Ed. I keep asking you why they don't.
So you just told us that Coriolis is the apparent deviation of its course, and then you told us the helicopter has no course. And now you're asking me this? You are so fucking dumb.
Oh, share your pain. No, it's not moving off its course. That means that the object isn't doing anything out of the ordinary. But what's appearing to happen is deflection because you turn underneath it. So the claim is fairly straightforward, Ed. I've detailed it about 100 times to you on this show. You're supposed to be turning underneath the helicopter. Now, the course, in the case of the helicopter, isn't anywhere. It's hovering. It doesn't have to have a particular travel destination, Ed. It can hover. So it's got no course. It's relatively stationary in its air. But at that point, we're supposed to see it drift away, Ed.
How can there be an apparent drift
follow a
of its
reference
course
range.
if there's
Neil,
no course?
I'm not going to ask you again. Go ahead, Ed.
How can there be an apparent drift of its course if there's no course, Nathan?
Oh, because it's claimed Earth turns underneath. It just doesn't happen. In the same way a gyro doesn't have a course. It's spinning in a fixed position. So, likewise, you don't have to have a course in the form of a helicopter that's hovering. And likewise, a gyro doesn't have a course. It's not going anywhere. In fact, it's just spinning in one position. But it's claimed Earth turns underneath it. That's the defining point of this Coriolis deviation, that we'd observe things seem to drift. So in the case of the pendulum, that's not moving either, really, is it? It's just swinging back and forth. But it's claimed Earth turns underneath it, Ed. It's claimed Earth turns underneath the helicopter, Ed. But that doesn't happen, Ed. And I keep asking you why it doesn't happen, even though it's claimed it does by your side. Why isn't Earth turning underneath the helicopter as it's claimed to, Ed?
Did you just say the pendulum doesn't move, but it moves back and forward?
Sorry, Ed, it's not got a travel destination. Yeah? It's not moving to a different location, just swinging back and forth. Sorry, this little straw man, little red herring of obfuscation to avoid the question that's been asked about 16 times. Ed, Earth is supposed to turn underneath helicopters and doesn't. Why doesn't Earth turn underneath helicopters, as it's claimed to at 15 degrees an hour, Ed?
You just said the pendulum doesn't move.
You're not answering
when
my
it
question,
moves.
you coward. Let's try his tact. You're not answering my question, you coward. I asked you a question, you're not answering it, coward. Why isn't Earth turning underneath the helicopter at 15
The answer
degrees?
is...
Coward.
So then let me finish and don't funny mute me. The answer is, you told us that Coriolis is the apparent deflection of its course. You then told us the helicopter has no course.
No, it's not apparently deviating off it. It would apparently deviate off its course if we were turning underneath it, but we're not. So it's not deviating if it's hovering. So it's not only not moving relatively to its air around it, we're not seeing it drift either, Ed. So it's supposed to look like it's drifting away 1,000 miles an hour on the equator, isn't, and I'm asking you why, given it should on a globe Earth that spins. Still yet to answer.
The necessary antecedent for an object to undergo Coriolis is for it to have a course.
No. It's a not actual deflection as you turn underneath, Ed. It's on screen for my audience still.
Yeah, so you...
Yeah, so you're a moron. So you're wrong. So you're thick. Not yeah, so. No, you're a moron, Ed. You don't understand Coriolis. It's on screen for my audience members. You're
Are
thick.
you funny muting me again?
No, I'm pointing out you're thick. You're a dumb shit. That's what I'm doing.
No, you're the dumb shit. You gave us the definition.
Yeah. It's your definition of your effect that's supposed to happen but doesn't. Not my definition of an effect I don't claim. I don't claim Earth's supposed to turn underneath these helicopters, Ed. Earth doesn't turn under helicopters. It's supposed to in your rhetoric. I keep asking you why it isn't happening.
Oh, boo-boo. Yeah, so can you read the definition again?
The object is not actually moving off its course.
Go ahead. What's the definition of Coriolis?
You're fundy muting me, Ed. Fundy muting me. I started reading it. The object is not actually moving off its course. It only appears to be doing so because the Earth is turning beneath it. That's what's claimed to happen. That would be Earth turning beneath it, Ed. So I'm asking you, given that your definition is that Earth turns beneath it, why doesn't Earth turn beneath a helicopter, as it's claimed to do in this citation? That's what Earth's supposed to do, and it's not doing it, Ed. Earth's not turning beneath a helicopter, Ed. Why isn't it?
Are you done? The definition you read was that the object only appears to move off its course.
That's right.
So if the object doesn't have a course, what can it be deviating off of, please?
Oh, it can still
that.
appear to deviate off its course, though. So if it's stationary in the air, Ed, it's you observing it moving when it's not moving. That'd be you turning underneath it and seeing it drift away, when in reality it's not moving off its course. So this helicopter's not moving off its course being, I'm going to go up to 30 feet and stay there. That's its course. So it reaches its destination of 30 feet in the air. It's taken its course. It's got there. Then it's stationary. But yet from the ground, it's claimed to drift away from you as you turn underneath it, Ed. And I keep pointing that out. That's Coriolis deflection. It's defined. It's on screen. We're supposed to turn underneath helicopters to prove Earth spins, Ed. 15 degrees. That's how much we're supposed to turn underneath per hour, according to the claim that Earth spins. And that doesn't happen. And I'm asking you constantly, over and over again, and you keep referring me back to your definition that's very specific in describing Earth turning beneath stuff. Why isn't Earth turning beneath a helicopter, Ed?
It's also very specific that it says the object appears to be moving off its course. And you admitted the helicopter doesn't have a course.
No, I didn't. I said it moved up in the air to 30 feet. Its course was 30 feet in the air. Its travel destination was 30 feet. You're a liar and you don't listen. I did give it a course. I gave it a course to 30 feet up in the air. So it had a destination. It took its flight, travelled the course of the flight, but yet from the ground, we're supposed to see it drift away at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator, and that doesn't happen, Ed. Helicopters don't appear to drift away. That would be you turning underneath them, seeing them seem to drift away. Not because they're actually flying away from you. That's the apparent bit. It appears because you're supposed to be turning underneath, and we don't. We don't turn underneath helicopters, Ed. Why not? We're supposed to, according to your globe Earth that spins.
Are you done funny muting? Come on.
Fundy, what are you babbling on about?
So, listen.
You weren't even talking.
Yeah, so...
Why are you claiming I'm fundy muting you when you weren't even fundy muting me?
Because
you weren't even talking. Sorry, do you not know when to throw in a claim of fundy muting? Do you not realise that when you're not talking and I am talking, you're not even interrupting me, that a claim that you're being muted when you're not even bloody talking is ludicrous? Now you're fundy muting me. So was it just a preemptive strike that you were going to talk through my replies to your claim? Ed, why isn't Earth turning underneath the helicopter as it's claimed to?
So you changed your argument, now the helicopter is suddenly moving? That's not what you said before.
No, it's your claim, your example, your hovering helicopter, and according to the claim that globe Earth spins, it's supposed to turn underneath the helicopter at a rate of 15 degrees an hour, and I keep asking you why that isn't happening. You're just never answering. Saying I'm changing my claim. I don't claim Coriolis. This isn't my claim, Ed, it's yours. Your claim that Earth turns under the helicopter, and I'm asking why your claim Earth turns under the helicopter isn't happening. You just yet to answer. I'll tell you why it isn't happening. Because Earth isn't spinning. If Earth was spinning, we'd turn under the helicopter. It's even claimed to be the case. But when you put it to a fundy, why isn't Earth turning underneath the helicopter? They'll give you a load of bollocks, obfuscation, doublespeak, and ask me about my claim. This isn't my claim, you're all morons. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in the Nathan Oakley or Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a day! What a lovely day!